Well, you're going to be long gone.
You see Amanda Moore in the waiting room?
I do.
It was a good test.
Thank you. I failed, but I will not fail again.
You're watching, waiting.
All right, thank you. All right, welcome. It's Thursday, February 19th, 2026. I'm calling the Lunenburg Finance Committee meeting to order. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access channel and on Facebook Live on the Public Access Facebook page, and will be uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel after the meeting. There is also a Zoom link that can be used and a call-in link. Those can be found at lunenburgma.gov on the Lunenburg Finance Committee agenda. And with that, if we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. I do not have any announcements. Are there any announcements from the board? All right. Is there any public comment from the public? Is there any public comment from the committee? All right, the next up on the agenda would be town manager and finance director reports, if there's any.
Sure, I'll give just a quick brief report, Mr. Chairman. So thank you. Brief update on the FY25 closeout. I had last reported that we had an extension through February 28th. It's looking like we are going to be able to meet that deadline. And in that, although free cash has not been fully certified and we are not at a final number, free cash for this year is looking to be relatively healthy, in excess of $3 million. There are some reasons for that we know, right? That there was a large turnback from the Lunenburg Public Schools that benefited free cash. We've also had some higher than normal investment income revenue on the local receipts side. Once we are fully done, we can do a better analysis on all the whys and wherefores of the high number. But that certainly changes the preliminary capital plan and other funding that was premised on the $1.8 million of estimated free cash. So once I have a final number, I'll be revisiting the capital plan. And I think with this level of free cash, coupled with some economic uncertainty, both generally and particularly with health insurance, I think we should be, it would be wise for us to consider making deposits into both the stabilization and the health insurance stabilization fund if possible. So I'll just leave it there for that.
I did peruse through your preliminary budget later. I'll probably ask what the investment income was for this year, so,
With the actuals?
yeah. All right. Okay. So, I did say current business order may change, and the order is going to change. I am going to ask Chief Sullivan to go first, and then police and facilities will be after, and they can rock, paper, scissors, or however you decide disputes within the town. One of you is armed, I think. So
At least I think I'm probably better off standing than trying to sit right now. So,
all right.
all right. Let me know when you have it up.
Police, fire. All right. I have it up.
Okay. All right. Well, good evening. Fire Chief Patrick Sullivan. This will be the presentation on the fire department and EMS service. Again, we're an all hazards response agency. Go to the next slide. Our main services are fire suppression, emergency medical services, hazardous materials response, at least at the operational level, technical rescue, again, at the operational level. We also provide a lot of public service support to our residents, things like lockouts, sand for seniors, assistance like that, sometimes assisting with injured or trapped animals, assisting the animal control officer. Fire prevention safety training and education is a big part of the job. The 2 inspectors are going pretty much nonstop when they work and handle hundreds of inspections each year. And again, training and administration and support to keep the operation going. Next slide. The organizational structure, and this again reflects the 4th shift proposal. Basically, everything in red is our career staff, black are our call staff, and in yellow or orange, that would be the proposed new shift on there. So 4 shifts of an officer and 2 paramedics, and then we have the call force on the side that they respond, paid by the hour. They come back basically when we need them, cover the station, take other apparatus, respond with that. Again, 3 people in the station, that gets the first truck or the first ambulance on the road. Beyond that, we rely on everybody else coming back in. Next slide. Just a quick outline on, you asked about service trends. Again, this is basically how our call volume has gone. We saw about a 0.8% decrease in our overall runs last year, but a 3% increase in EMS, which the EMS has been slowly trending up for the last few years. Specifically, we saw a 19% increase in mutual aid responses overall, and a 37% increase in EMS mutual aid, which has been part of the whole Neshoba shutdown and the strain on the whole area. We're spending a lot of time in each other's towns. Next slide. So the total budget request, and the town manager will also have that too, is 200, there's a typo there, but it's 2,097,555.42. It's basically a 22% increase. Most of that is the 42-hour, or the 4th shift proposal. That's adding 3 people, making 1 promotion for the officer on that shift, and that increases in the overtime for the, assuming for earned time off, callbacks, things like that for the new people, and a proposed, or a planned change in hourly rate for the existing staff, which will affect their overtime rate. That's there to make that up. It also includes it also includes who brought the cool kid? What was that echo?
I touched this,
But it turned that one
and
on.
it turned that on. Oh, that's off now?
Okay.
I can hear
That also
now,
includes.
guys. That worked.
Here it goes.
I guess that's somebody on Zoom?
It's Pac that is unmuted.
Okay.
Oh, Pac's unmuted.
Okay,
I'll give it a second.
I muted him.
Okay. That also includes increases for uniform allowance, holiday pay, which are contractual. There were a couple other lines in there that we're in, as the town manager will probably mention, we're in the midst of contract negotiations with the firefighters union. Not quite finalized yet. Some still moving parts, but there are a couple things for increases that we will see that have been worked out no matter what. Those were for educational incentives and certifications. She's added that in to the budget. Again, major cost drivers, like I said, is that 4th shift, increasing call volume, and inflation rate and consumables. Basically, of that increase in the budget, all of that is a 4th shift except for $15,400. I didn't mean to shock you.
I was just trying to,
But we, especially in a lot of that is mostly EMS supplies and equipment, because what we are seeing between somewhat of an increase in calls, acuity of calls, and the fact that stuff is just skyrocketing in price. Things that we've seen some things that have doubled in price in the last couple of years. And that, I think, as many people have probably seen with other items.
thank you. I guess.
His facility.
It happens. It happens.
For those that don't know, as a little non sequitur, this is the chief's last budget presentation before his retirement to the finance committee.
I'll try to cover up that smile.
So we're making it very interesting for him.
Yeah, gee, thanks. I don't like interesting anymore. I liked interesting when I was younger. The other increase in the operating side of the budget is replacement equipment. Again, a lot of the lines and a couple of the other lines that we'll talk about in the budget have not gone up in 10, 15, 20 years. Those have been $10,000 right across the board. And that we've gotten a few of them increased over the years to try to keep up with inflation. My goal has been kind of different years, try to hit different ones and bring them up, because basically our buying power to replace equipment, to fix things, has gone down and down and down, because the money hasn't changed, but the expense to do it has gone up significantly. Next slide. This is the radio maintenance budget that's included in with fire. I've included that. That has about a 33% increase, just going from $10,000 to $15,000. Again, cost of equipment, radios has skyrocketed. This amount has not gone up in years. Just trying to replace portable radios, they're running towards $4,000 a piece now for fireground grade portable radios. We replaced about half of them on the ARPA money a couple of years ago, but we're still trying to chip away at that. And we've had to repair several radios, fix other things, so that has chipped away at that this year. Like I say, it's, costs have gone crazy because unfortunately a lot of this stuff is imported and that. So I think we're seeing problems there. And some of the older radios are at the point they're not serviceable anymore. You can't get parts for them. So we can use them as long as the batteries take a charge and we can get pieces parts. But once those fail, they're done. So next slide. Vehicle maintenance, again, 16% increase. This has been a bugaboo for us for years. Again, we needed a reserve fund transfer last year. There's been I don't remember what year it was, but a few years ago we had to look at that too. Basic costs in there will cover some significant repairs, but if we see more than one, we're often exceeding them. We had an ambulance that we spent probably $15,000 on repairs. The truck is a 2019. Granted, it's been hit twice by drunk drivers, but it's had emissions issues, turbocharger issues. Those are stuff that the local mechanic at the highway cannot fix. We have to farm them out. And that, like everything else, is not cheap nowadays. A lot of the newer vehicles are very much more technologically sophisticated. Jim Stickler at the Highway Department does an amazing job. He can fix a lot of stuff, but when you get into electronics, you get into heavier engine or transmission components, we have to send it out. And that can get really expensive with some of these shops. So again, there was an increase for a request for a $10,000 increase on purchase of service for sending stuff out. We burned through quite a bit of a chunk of that this year already. And I still have one truck sitting, waiting to go out for repairs. So, next slide. The emergency management and hydrant maintenance budgets, those are unchanged. Haven't moved them. Emergency management is really, besides the salary for the emergency management director, who is me, it's $2,000 for supplies. And that. The hydrant rental is the cost we pay the Leominster and Lunenburg water districts for having hydrants in our town, for them to maintain them and for us to have the ability to use them. That number has not changed. I'm not aware of any increases coming with that. So you had questions about funding sources. The main source of our funding is the general fund. Most everything we take in terms of inspectional fees, ambulance receipts, they go back to the general fund. So grants, things like that, they are supplementing what we already have. We usually receive around $7,400 from the state for fire safety education for both kids and for the Senior Safe program. We have people, we go in, we get supplies. That's where some of the Sand for Seniors comes from. We get materials. We can rent the fire safe trailer for the kids. We go do K through 3 down at the school. So there's that. There's been a firefighter safety grant that went for 5 years that ran roughly $15,000 to $19,000 a year that we were allowed us to buy a lot of equipment, offset the fact that the budget's been, that line hasn't gone up in the budget in a long time. We were told that grant was done last year, but then all of a sudden it appeared this year. So we're working currently on trying to get that spent. The challenge with the state is, once they approve it, we have to have it spent by the end of June. And if any of you try to know, like ordering some things online, some stuff is there in 2 days, sometimes it's there in 6 months. And emergency equipment is even more so on that. We're trying to look at replacing some of our extrication vehicle stabilization equipment that we have for that. The EMPG, Emergency Management Preparedness Grant, usually we would be in the neighborhood of $3,750 on that. That has not come to fruition this year. That is federal money that's filtered through the state. I haven't heard a lot on it lately, but I think the state told the federal government where to put it because of a lot of issues going on at the federal level. There are a lot of things attached, strings attached to it. So we have not seen that. We do get usually roughly $5,000 in donations, usually from the Firefighters Association for equipment that we normally wouldn't buy out of the town budget. We've bought reflective jackets. We've bought, I had a list here, hang on. Come on. Reflective jackets, an ice rescue sled, a hydration station for the firefighters. We bought everybody water bottles so they can stay hydrated. In fact, one's right over there. And again, that's something usually when the Firefighters Association does their fundraiser every year, they kick a little bit back towards the department to get some stuff. I think one year they bought us an AED to replace that. Let's see. The other one that everybody's talked about is the Neshoba mitigation money. We do have currently about $165,000 that we're looking at that. Currently, it can be split between FY '26 and '27. The caveat is, whatever you say you're going to spend in '26, you can't move over to '27. So right now, we're looking at using it just to provide either overtime or per diem staffing for 8 hours a day to add a fourth person during our peak operational time during the daytime to give us a fourth person in the station. Which means most circumstances we can staff the second ambulance more reliably and would have 4 people going out the door. Or we'd have 2 people back in the station if the first ambulance is out, that we can at least handle the beginnings of a second call. And we're less reliant on callback coming into the station. For FY '27, plan is to put some money aside to train at least one person as a paramedic. Whether we get the 4th shift or not, there's a good chance we may have a retirement. Whether we can hire a paramedic or not is still up in the air. A lot of that's going to depend on the 4th shift proposal. We might have a better chance of attracting paramedics for that. But it's a good chance we'll have more than one. So putting some money aside for that, for the tuition, and for some overtime for backfill and paying the person to go. And then the rest of it, again, would be 8 hours a day for a 4th person. If the 4th shift proposal goes through, we would be moving the per diem that we do now out to 16 hours a day through the week, and that would just be used to supplement that in theory we could put a 4th person in for 24 hours, at least 5 days a week. Again, that money's finite. You know, the question had been asked about whether that could offset any of the 4th shift. The danger is that's one-time funds. It's like using free cash. Sounds good, but we'd be back with a handout going, what do we do now after a year? Because we don't have it. It's, again, I want to use it to supplement what we're doing right now. We talked about some equipment. We're not in horrible shape on equipment right now. I say that after we had to fix one of the stretchers. But, you know, right now, for me, it's getting more boots on the ground. We got more people to handle the call volume that we're dealing with. We did apply for an Assistance to Firefighters grant. That's, again, a federal grant to replace Engine 2 that is on the capital plan. We did not see that in that. And to be honest, we never even got a reply on it. That was about the time the government shutdown happened. But I know chiefs that got theirs, they were told that, yeah, all of these went out at the same time, and we never received anything, so we didn't get it. So, next slide. So basically, to summarize, again, the budget is requested, gives us 3 additional career staff to put 3 people on duty, 24 hours a day, with a per diem filling in up to 16 hours a day to support them, to put hopefully 4 people in the station most of the time, but at least 3. It provides better working conditions for our people. Their schedule is a little bit less than what it is right now. It spreads them out more through the week, but we're not relying on the per diem or the part-time people for 1 day a week. The career staff are always there. The per diem will always supplement and give them a better response. Like I said, the big thing is that we could staff the second ambulance more frequently, and it gives us more people if there is a fire going out the door. A level-funded budget, it also addresses shortages in the budget that, again, we've had lines that have not gone up in years, and that, while inflation has been really kicking in hard, and we're just trying to keep up with some of the rising costs. Again, level-funded budget without the fourth shift is going to put a strain on our people. Like I said, when you look around departments in the state, there's 191 that operate on a 42-hour week. There are 5 that will operate on a 48-hour week. That is a very big incentive when we're trying to hire people, and it's a big thing for us to hang on to the existing people that we have. They have very marketable skills, and they always have the option to go somewhere else. And they've all been there long enough that pretty much everybody is out from under the buyback agreement that we had for people that were trained. They've been there 3 years. They're done with that. So, and again, without the expense part, it's just getting the window to buy supplies and stuff just gets smaller and smaller for what we can do. We already robbing one line to pay another to cover EMS supplies. So, and a less than level funded budget the next step would probably reduce some of the per diem coverage. So we'd have even less people available. So. Questions? Ms. Lockwood, you had a whole bunch of questions. I don't know if I answered. Do you want me to go through the list, or are you happy with most of what you got for answers?
So all the replies that I got, I put it on the folder for his were longer, so I printed. I'm gonna printing them all, but I'll save them all in the folder. I did have a couple. When did Nashoba close? Was it in 24?
It was 25. What's that? Oh, no, it was only a couple of years ago. I think you're right. I think it might have been 24.
24.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
September of 24, I believe was right.
2024.
Okay,
yeah.
31st,
So-
September 1st.
One of the questions that I had was, we are increasing the career firefighters, but the per diem salaries are maintained flat, and you explained to us in your response, why is that? So more direct, a follow-up to that question is, how many hours in man-hours are you increasing coverage on the station?
The total man-hours probably is increasing. Total man-hours in the station are probably actually increasing by about 16 hours a week by adding the additional per diem. The career staff you're covering, the career staff will be working on an 8-day cycle, not a 7, so the schedule moves across the board instead of working a 6-day cycle. Currently, we do 96 hours of per diem.
Per week?
Per week. There's 3 people on Sunday, and if we can fill them, there are 2 that are in overflow on Saturday to give them 4, because generally there's not a lot of people in town. And that's, if we can fill it, great. If we don't, we don't. That would be taken across the board, and we probably have to add a little bit out of the firefighter's salary. That's always been based out of, that's our call people, that's the per diem. Some of that's a function of how busy we are on the call side, how many people come back, and then, like I say, whether we take everybody gets the per diem shifts, or some of them go unfilled.
So 100 hours per week. So
112 or 116, I think.
So we're talking about around 5,200 hours a year, just rounding, that the firefighter, so that coverage, the 96 hours, how many hours are the Sunday shift?
72, 3 people.
72? So based on the budget, if there's no increases, I'm just using, a high-level number, those extra 72, since you're level funding that line, the on-call firefighters, that would be the distribution to expect to be extra on the fire.
There would be some. Traditionally, we have been under in that line the last few years, and that because we don't have as many call firefighters. We're not getting as many back as we used to, so that line has traditionally been under. each year. So I think with the addition, I think we can handle it within that. The call firefighters are into the SAP, so depending on whatever raises we see out of, any changes in the SAP would be the differences there. And again, they're in there for, if they're working a shift, 10 or 14 hours. So,
Yeah, I just expected the on-call firefighter line to drop.
no, because we're reusing the money somewhere else. I'm reusing the staffing that we're doing to hopefully be able to staff a fourth person supplementing the career staff. I'm trying, not only is the fourth shift happening, but we're also trying to improve the coverage for the second ambulance and for fire response with that person.
So,
I'm not interested in dropping that line because I want to keep, improve what we're doing.
so if we go back to your slide number 3, which it has the, your current setting there, the shifts, right?
Yep.
So now you have 5,200 hours. Where are you putting that 5,200 hours in here? Is it a fourth person on every shift?
There would be a fourth person at least some of the time during the daytime on each one of those shifts. They're not reflected on there because at this point, part of the problem has been on the Sunday shifts, we have to maintain staffing there. So we're forcing the career people at double time in. With the per diems, if we don't fill them, I'm not going to force a full-timer in to maintain 4. We'd maintain the 3, but it doesn't reflect it on there, but that fourth person, there would be a fourth person probably 16 hours a day on each one of those shifts.
A day on each of the
When
shifts?
each one of those shifts is working, there'd be a per diem firefighter probably working at an 8 to 4 and then a 4 to midnight shift. So it'd be 2 of them working
So
different
this
hours.
budget that you presented, technically on that slide, should your ideal would have a fourth person there?
In theory, there would be a per diem.
Right. But you're requesting funding for that.
I did not request it to be dropped in the budget. It's already there for the per diems. They're already there in the firefighter salary.
I mean, I wouldn't say they're there because right now we're using,
That's what we used to pay them, the 96 hours right now.
but they are on the fourth shift on Sunday. And I understand, I'm just trying to get a clear picture of the money with the people that so that money now is going to be for a fourth person on every one of those shifts.
Each one of those shifts. We would add 3 career people, so you have 3 career people every day of the week, and that they would be supplemented by that fourth per diem person to give you, hopefully most of the time, 4 people on duty, not 3.
Okay.
The big difference is on Sundays right now, we have to rely on the per diems, and if they're not there, we have to force, or pay career people overtime to cover those shifts, because we need a minimum response. With the fourth shift, we have that minimum response. The per diems would supplement. Still going to use them, but relying on them isn't as critical as what we're dealing with right now.
Right, and I think you explained well. I'm just, again, your chart doesn't match with the new design that you have. And I understand you explained that.
The only thing I didn't put on there was the per diem. using
Right,
the per
right.
diem. Yeah.
What do you, with the increased calls and going to different cities and closing of Neshoba, I understand. I was just trying to understand that part. And I do have, you saw my email about more details on the ambulance. Jen, did you get to see it? I didn't. Okay. I'll follow up with you about it.
On the write-offs, yeah, I've spoken to the finance director on that. We will get you that number. I just don't have it right in front of me.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand.
We were doing it quarterly for a while, and then we were averaging about 25,000 each time, so we went out to semi-annually. But with the turnover in the finance department, we've kind of pushed it off a little bit.
No, it makes sense.
But,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And those do go, like I said, those go to collection. I don't want to speak for them, but that's writing it off the books as a liability for the town. Doesn't mean we won't ever see the money. Collection agency will pursue
So we
that.
do have a collections company in place.
It works through our billing company. Yep.
Because sometimes the billing company are different than the collection company.
They're a different company, but they contract through them. So
it's
I
one
think, correct me
package.
if I'm wrong. Yeah. So,
Okay.
but we do pursue it, and that sometimes it's it's chasing the wind. Sometimes you do get some money back out of
No,
it.
Do you know what we get from the collection? I mean, they probably, most collection companies want a percentage, so if they collect $100.
I don't have that number in front of me. I don't, that's really more up on their end than my operational end.
We'll ask
So,
them.
they call, we haul.
Is a lot of that stuff that is not collected? I remember last year or the year before, you were mentioning, like, you charge $2,000 for an ambulance, but Medicare only pays $1,000.
Correct.
You have to accept that
Yep.
1,000, and so
Yep.
that's other 1,000 is
To
written
be
off?
part of that program, we can only accept what they pay, which, last time I looked, the numbers are somewhere between 25 and 37% of what we bill.
Okay.
We have to accept that, and we can't chase the person for the
Right,
other
so
half.
that's a lot of that number. Is that a lot of the number?
No, the numbers I provided to Ms. Lockwood showed like what they call the offsets, but that's what that is basically, yeah, we build that out, but we can't collect it.
But you had
That's
100
not part of the write-off.
Right, you had 1.3 million billed in '25, and you collected just over a half million.
Right.
Does that, okay, so, just so I understand, does that not include the money that we've just not are going to get because of Medicare or the insurance?
The balance is probably the combination of the Medicare and some of the write-offs in there.
Okay.
So,
So
but the
it's-
vast majority of that, because we are probably about 66% of our transports are Medicare, Medicaid,
Right.
that type of insurance.
Right.
Which on the flip side is a good thing for our more elderly population. It protects them from big bills.
That was the follow-up question that I had, Tom. I asked, basically, how much was received from maxing out on insurance or Medicaid, Medicare, and how much was written off because, that we have collected the maximum. And then the other question is, how many claims have we not received anything? And I think and what's the value of those claims? And
That,
that's-
I don't have an answer for you
Yeah,
on that.
and I think, I know the collections company and the billing company will have that, probably the easiest, but thank you.
Any other questions?
For the fourth shift, you have a lieutenant.
Correct.
Is that a requirement or something that you think is just best
That is
practice?
in the table of organization that I want to see for the department. Each of the other shifts have a shift officer.
Right.
And that, like the police have a sergeant on each shift. Occasionally, if one of them is off, the senior firefighter fills in as an acting lieutenant. But the whole plan would be to have a shift supervisor. Right now, it's convenient. I live in town. My deputy lives in town. My deputy's in his 60s. He's probably not going to be here that much longer. Don't know where the next chief might be. So you may be relying on those shift officers to do a lot more, but they handle the day-to-day operations.
So currently, when you have the fourth shift, you don't have a fourth shift, but
Right.
when you're doing that time period, is there a lieutenant?
We would promote somebody from within.
No, currently, the people because you were mentioning you have to get other people to come in, and it's really tough to get your current people there. Does that current shift being done that you've put together?
per diem
that
shift?
Yeah, the per diem shift. Does that include a lieutenant?
The per diem shift has an on-call officer. All the career and the call officers take turns being on call for that day.
Okay.
So they're around. May not be physically in the station, but they got the radio nearby. They're listening. They respond if they have a need for an officer. Which that was something we budget $5,000, $5,200 a year for that because they get a $100 stipend for that. That also would go away if we have the career staff 7 days a week because you'd have an officer. And everybody would be really happy not to have to be on call on Sunday.
Jay or Tanya, any? Right. I did have one question. One of the recent Boston fires, the Ed Walsh
Yep.
fire, resulted in a finding of the hoses being inadequate.
They had problems with the burn-throughs on the hoses.
Do we have those?
We do not. We've looked into it. We haven't purchased any yet. I've been kind of following up with some departments because my question has been, as the trade-off is, yes, it's more fire-resistant, but it's more difficult. Is it more difficult to handle, to move around? I remember the old days when I first started some of the old double-jacket cotton hose. It took a lot to burn that stuff through, but you needed 2 men and a boy to move it.
Okay.
And that's the downside with the newer stuff is it's lightweight, it's easy to move, but yeah, you do have that risk.
Okay.
So, something we're looking into.
And I think one of the moms was
They were
in the,
providing some funding towards that. We would be looking at, just doing numbers in my head, but you're looking at probably a couple thousand feet of hose that we would have to replace for that.
okay.
So,
So you don't think it's a problem?
I don't see it as a problem,
Okay.
not for us, anyway. We haven't run into that. We usually have more problems with brush fire hose burning through, so fire runs by it. So,
Okay.
but it's on our radar, and we're gonna look into it some, but maybe something down the road. We just replaced a lot of our attack hose over the last few years off the grant money, so most of that hose is only a couple of years old.
Okay.
So,
Okay. I didn't have any others, so for me, thank you.
Thank you.
With your retirement coming up, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Your last budget presentation.
Unless you guys
next
move
year.
things up in the fall, I don't know. I might get stuck with capital before I'm
Yes.
done, but yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you can come and sit on this side of the table.
You know, I'm probably not going anywhere. You may not be rid of me that easy. We'll see what happens. So I'm not heading to Florida or the backwoods of Maine,
All
so
right. Okay.
I'll be in town for a while.
All right. Well, thank you again.
All right, thank you.
No, I'm good. So can we actually have Chris go next? Because the Parks Commissioner, also my wife, is on.
Yeah. Where's that budget?
Thank you. And I will pull up the,
Did we get that?
it is in the
Oh, the shared.
SharePoint. I just gotta find it.
You having trouble finding it? Do you need it, Chris? Do you need me to drive it?
I have it, I just have a lot of windows open, so I gotta find it.
But I'll let you know. If you don't hear from me, I'm there.
You all set?
Yep, all set.
I feel like I should have announced it too soon. Everything fell apart. Make a mention of it.
I won't be announcing my retirement tonight. I have a few more years.
Play the lottery, maybe you can.
Yeah. All right. First slide is obviously just the cover sheet, so we can jump off of that one. Welcome. This is a facilities department presentation. I guess we'll run through a quick department overview. Our key services are building and grounds maintenance, and then facilities, capital and budgeting planning. We also do all the parks maintenance, as well as overseeing the recreation department and the town beach. Go to the next slide. This is just a quick shot of our organizational structure. Obviously, town manager is at the top below select board, then myself. Below me, I have a shared admin with DPW. I'd just like to note that her salary is carried entirely within the DPW budget, not mine. On the right-hand side of the chart, I have my recreation director, which is currently vacant, as well as the beach director, and then our seasonal beach staff of lifeguards. On the other side, I have a facilities superintendent and what I call a facilities technician, although his official title is custodian. He does not clean for us. He actually fixes things. On to our next slide here.
On the rec director, you do have candidates, though, that are,
We've done 3 interviews, all promising candidates. Now we have the challenge of picking one.
okay.
Here are our service trends by fiscal year. We track these through our work order system. A couple things I'd like to point out. My office is in the Ritter Building, which is why it looks like there's never any calls there, because everyone just walks down to my office. Similarly with the DPW, because my staff is based out of there, because that's where the trucks are parked. The other one to note is the TCP we added to that system later on, so there's fewer calls for service there. These do a pretty good job of capturing, which buildings need the most attention. That being said, my guys do walkthroughs every day of each building, and the staff tend to just grab them and fix little stuff that really never gets captured.
Was 24 when you implemented
This
those calls?
system, yes.
What's that?
This system came online in FY '24, yeah.
Okay.
Or end of, I think it was to '25 we actually started.
Okay.
The previous system was brutal to use. To clear out a work order took 6 emails. So. We jump on to the next slide here. We'll start talking the money. So I kind of broke my budget up between the way it's listed through our system of public buildings, which is utilities, and then facilities, parks, that way. So this first section here is the public buildings, which is all of our utilities. One exception to that is the library pays their own utilities, so they're not included anywhere in this. Our current budget at a level fund is $287,500. That being said, it appears as it's a 29% increase. That is due to finally capturing the TCP utilities in a budget somewhere. And they are pretty significant on that building. Another thing that we're currently working on is adjusting all of our solar credits within the town. Some of our buildings have pretty serious surpluses. We're not allowed to just apply that credit to another bill. We're allowed to adjust how the credits are accrued. So every 6 months we can change it. So we're tweaking everything to try and get it back down to where it should be level. So we're hoping to start seeing some savings from that.
Do you have a dollar value of how much around that
It's
is?
over 100 grand in credits, depending on various buildings.
Okay.
And it's one of the more complicated things is it ties in the schools and it ties in community solar farms as well as the solar on the roofs of some of the town buildings. So it's one of the more ridiculous things we deal with because there's 4 different solar companies involved and Unitil and National Grid, and it's fun. On to our next slide here. This one was kind of broken into 2 slides to make it all fit. This is the facilities maintenance budget. I'll just kind of run through. It's $770,474. Still considering it a level service for the most part. Increases are tied to some of it's TCP. We also have an increase to the purchase of service line to cover repairs that don't rise to the level of capital, but are still need to be handled. The one we have coming up for this year is every 20 years we're required to test sprinkler heads, and quite a few at the fire department have failed. So that's about $15,000 to replace them all, but that doesn't meet our capital threshold. We also have an increase to our contracted services line, which is the line we use for generator maintenance, maintenance of the exhaust systems for the DPW and police garages. Part of that is the new generator at the senior center needs service. We also picked up the service for the generator at the TC Pastors building. The rest of it is just regular inflation. We've also increased our building maintenance supply line, mostly due to inflation, but some of that is my current staff is fairly talented for certain things, so we've been doing more work in-house. We've installed a couple mini-split air conditioners around town and different places. We just had them redo the planning admin office in-house, so that's causing an increase to those lines. Salaries here are shown at the current rates. That being said, my 2 facility staff are part of the DPW union negotiations that are operating off of a 2-year-old contract. So we are likely to see some changes there. They're currently negotiating with the Teamsters. One new thing that was added in here is a vehicle allowance for myself. When I was first hired, I was told that I wasn't even allowed to get mileage because the buildings were so close. Turns out I've been doing quite a bit of driving using my own vehicle. DPW director gets a truck, building commissioner gets the vehicle allowance, and we just matched with the vehicle allowance for the building inspector. Figured it was more cost effective than the town buying another truck and having to maintain all that. One good thing to note budget-wise is the town's betterment costs for when all the sewer went in expires after FY28. So next year for FY28 it'll be $63,000, but then it's gone, which will free up some much-needed money in the budget to start tackling some deferred maintenance items. The next slide, if you jump over, is just the actual spreadsheet itself. Let's see. One thing you may notice on the sheet is the facilities manager, who's my superintendent line, going down from last year. It was just a typo last year that got missed somehow. We did not demote him, it was just a typo. On to the next slide, it was as soon as you're ready, of course, the parks portion of the budget. So for parks, the total budget is $145,433.60. Represents an 8% increase. And the increase for the most part is to our purchase of service line. And that covers everything from repairs to landscaping. Right now, our landscaping contract at bare bones is $44,590 of that. That doesn't even cover mowing the parks enough to cover baseball. That's 17 cuts a year. For anyone that's lives around here in the spring, you're cutting every 4 days. Just to get it to where we need to be, it's another $15,000 worth of mowing added to that number. Let's see, read my notes here. And that landscape contract, by the way, did start in FY25, so the prices are at least locked in for another couple of years. On to the next slide. This is just showing our revolving fund for the TC Passios building. We currently have a couple of tenants in the building. Public access TV is in there. They pay us about $6,000 a year. We're also renting 4 classrooms to the Shapiro School at $24,000 a year. This fund, we also have a couple miscellaneous gym rentals, but it varies every year. We have pickleball, volleyball rentals. This fund starts at $0 every year. Well, it's really only been going for a year with the way we have it set up, but it starts at $0, and we just basically bill everything we can against it to try to offset some of the TCP costs. On to our next slide of funding sources. This graph combines all of the facilities, including the parks. So the vast majority of our funding comes from the general fund. Small portion from the TCP revolving we just spoke about. Small portion for the parks revolving, which is dedicated to parks costs. There are grant opportunities. We try to work with the Green Communities folks as much as we can. Those grants tend to bounce back and forth between us or the schools, whoever needs them more. And then on to my FY27 summary recap. The biggest changes this year are really budgeting the TC Passios building. There's been quite a few conversations about winding that building down and shutting it down completely. You know, we were hoping with our partial decommissioning to see in the range of 50% savings in heating costs, and we're seeing about 20. So it's still very expensive to run the building. It's not well utilized, and at any moment we could have a major failure over there between a roof or a boiler, and we would just be shut down. You know, other than that, The only real changes were kind of inflation and minor things. That was all I had for you. Any questions?
All right. Is there any questions from the board?
No, thank you for sending me the questions.
Thank you. We appreciate seeing questions ahead of time.
I bet you do.
I have one. Are you hiring a parks director?
We've interviewed 3,
Okay.
and we have 2 of them are actually today, so I have to get together with the HR director and make a pick and hopefully get somebody on board, preferably before we need to hire lifeguards for the beach.
Is there a component of that position that is a grant writing component?
It's not officially part of the position. I would love a candidate who can do that and
Yeah.
help bring some more money in. It's going to sound weird, but unfortunately, we had 3 good candidates, which makes it difficult to pick one. It's nice when you have a clear standout person, but I think we'll figure it out, and either way, I don't think we can go wrong. So,
My advice would be to get somebody with some grant writing experience, because there's a lot of money to be had in grants for parks, specifically because we are next to an underserved community, Fitchburg. It allows a lot of arts and culture grants to come into this town, so I would definitely try to look at that.
I appreciate the input, because I know rec is one of your specialties. It is not necessarily one of mine.
And Jen had something to add.
Yeah, I just want to add for clarification, thank you, Mr. Chairman, that this is still funding the part-time recreation position. I know last year, we had talked about ramping that up to a full-time position with the former director. Those conversations were in their infancy when she departed. That may be a conversation with whoever the pick is to pick that back up, but at this point, it's funded at that part-time level for
So how many
clarity.
hours is that?
19.
19.
Oh, wow. To
Yeah.
run the whole parks department? Good luck.
It's challenging. The goal is and has been to grow the department and really establish a thriving rec department. We just need to get the right person on board to get us there.
Right? All right, well, good luck with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
As it relates to TC Passios, we did have that funding for the roof. We're not doing anything with that, right?
No, the funding was initially for the middle section of the building where the school department was occupying it. And once they were moving out, we decided not to spend the funds. And then I think town manager can explain a little better what happened with the funding there, but
You can see the microphone already moving over.
I can see it.
So thankfully, gratefully, we did not spend the funds on the repair of the roof at TCP. So you can recall last year, I had talked about moving the money to a different portion of the roof. And in looking at that and looking at the prior year capital, the $300,000 that was appropriated from a prior year capital to fund that TCP roof was also utilized in the FY26 capital plan to fund a portion of the capital plan. So when that double funding was realized, thankfully, the TCP roof hasn't we haven't started engaging in that area. And there was an equivalent amount of money, and it was in this building, actually, it was the windows and the HVAC design for the town hall building. It was a little bit more than 300,000, but I asked Mr. Ruth to not proceed, and you will see a article on this town meeting warrant that's essentially a cleanup article, rescinding some votes so we can get the money from the original appropriation directed into this FY26 capital plan. It's really a housekeeping matter to make it legal. But thankfully, again, we didn't spend the money in either area, but it was double counted essentially.
Okay. So as it relates to like the capital projects, I always kind of have to go off memory of where we are in certain things. One thing I think this board would benefit from is kind of a ledger of all the projects that are out there, what the status of them are, and then, some of them that are kind of old, what the plan is to kind of just be done with them one way or another. Maybe something that goes into a quarterly report or something like that. And then, so you are starting a plan on decommissioning TC Passios in its entirety?
Yep, we've started that. We've spoken to all the stakeholders at this point of trying to make plans for everyone to get out of there. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the goal is to not heat the building through another winter.
Not to what?
Not to heat the building through another winter. Because
Okay.
that's really the biggest cost. I mean, that gas bill's at least $45,000 a year. This year's been colder than normal, so we've been chewing through more. And part of the issue with it is the TC Passio school used to heat the old high school, so the boilers now are wildly oversized and just very inefficient for what they're doing.
So when you say the goal is, that means bring in a warrant article on one of the next two to decommission it, or just kind of demolition by neglect?
I mean, I would love to get capital to get going on the asbestos abatement, only because no matter what, it has to be done. And it's not getting any cheaper as the years go on.
Okay.
As far as a warrant article to,
No, I can speak more clearly to the goal. So we have the user groups that are in the building. Some are easier to relocate than others. So the Shapiro Center, who's leasing space from us, is relatively easy to relocate. The town clerk, although not easy to relocate elections, it's doable to relocate elections. Similarly, PAC is exploring currently with Fitchburg Access TV leasing space in Fitchburg. They have a state-of-the-art studio if you have not seen it. The most difficult user group is going to be the food pantry. When we originally spoke to the food pantry about timelines, unfortunately, Chris and I were speaking in fiscal years, not calendar years. And so when we were saying fall FY27, they were thinking calendar FY27. Once we got on the same page around timeline, they've expressed concern with their ability. We're going to have further conversations with them.
Okay.
So the goal, when Chris spoke to the goal of having people out by the heating season, we're planning to fund the operations of this building through FY27 with the hope that we do not have to actually expend the money. It's too early now, right, to know if it's practical for folks to actually be out by this coming fall. But that is the plan. Once we're through actually winding down the building and the user groups, I do think that we have a fair amount of cold storage over there, that files that will remain, and then I think you'll see perhaps this time next year a warrant article.
Okay. All right.
If all goes as planned.
Okay. Any additional questions from the committee? I usually ask if there's any questions from the town, from the public. So there are folks on Zoom if they want to ask a question. I'm okay with that. I forgot to do it during fire. All right, then with that, thank you, Chris.
thank you very much.
I was gonna sip, but they all stood.
All right.
Totally stood, so I just.
So, yeah.
All right. Over to you, Chief. I'll
Ready,
pull up the
Chris?
slides.
You have the slides? Good evening. Chief Jeffrey Thibodeau, Lunenburg Police Department, with my budget presentation. Obviously, just the first slide, Chris.
All right, let me just. All right,
Oh, it's behind me. Next slide, department values.
yep,
The one I want to hit on here, one of the values we have is that we recognize and value our employees and recognize they are the most valued resource. We'll strive to provide our employees with the necessary resources, training, and career development to enhance their professionalism. You don't really think about these things, but our last two candidates picked Lunenburg PD because of our values that we had. It's, right now, it's obviously an employee market. Everybody's fighting right now, nationally, locally, for police officers and firefighters, pretty much any service, public service right now. And it was just kind of eye-opening that two of them said, well, we came to Lunenburg because of that line, which kind of shocked me, but. Next slide. Or organizational chart, you have me, Chief of Police. We have our Administrative and Operations Lieutenant, Sean Zarate, my Executive Secretary, Kennedy Jackson, our part-time Admin Assistant, Gail Kemp, our Front Desk Clerk, Evelyn Rowe. You have 3 sergeants. You have a K-9 Patrol K-9 officer, a traffic officer, 3 patrols on the day shift, 3 patrol officers on the evening shift, 1 vacancy on the evening shift, 2 patrol officers on the night shift, that's also 1 vacancy, and then we have 2 SRO community officers, Brad McNamara and Cam Monroe. Our detective, Joshua Matthew, and then we have a vacancy for a detective in our plan. Some of the service trends on the next slide. We've been seeing steady increase since COVID. During COVID, our numbers were extremely low. Before COVID, they were extremely high. Some of you might remember before COVID, we had a 10-year plan of trying to get to 25 officers here. That's where our numbers were so. I mean, our first number for arrests were up towards the 435 mark. Last year, we were at 315. Before that, I think we were at like 250. And around COVID, I think we were at like 180. So they've just been steadily increasing to all of our numbers, all of our stats in my town annual report. Everything has gone up, which we're going to get to pre-COVID numbers, I anticipate, which is what originally why we had increased staff so drastically in those years. Everything from animal calls to firearms licensing to accidents. Actually, the only thing that actually went down is house breaks, which I'm proud to say. That went down.
That's good.
I like to say because there's more officers out there patrolling. If you're seeing an officer, you're probably not going to break into the person's house, right? Next slide. Our budget, $2,581,557.92. You'll see the majority of it, $2,484,639.28, is basically personnel. It's driven by our collective bargaining agreements, our stipends, our overtime, and our training. That's the majority of it. We're in a contract year, the first year of a contract that the union negotiated, so you'll see that there is that slight increase in there. Our equipment line, not so much of an increase, but the 2 increases are actually, which are the big ones, is for body armor, replacing the officer's body armor, which has a 5-year life, and by contract, we have to replace after 5 years for the officers. And then also software, building software that we didn't used to have that we had to absorb into the budget. So that accounts for the $7,350 increase in there. Other than that, it's pretty much level funded in those lines. The body armor, it would be replacing 6 officers, and it would be the 6 officers that were here 5 years ago. All these other officers that are coming on have new body armor. So in the past, 10 years ago, when we had everybody that was here and they were all here and they stayed here and they were here for good, we used to be able to do it with capital because we could purchase it all at one time, and all of the 25 officers or however many was going to get all of them at the same time. Now we've obviously had a lot of vacancies, a lot of hirings, a lot of new retirements, a lot of new people coming in. I put that in the budget just to stagger it so that, you know, if we need to replace 6 next year, the following year we might not have to replace any of them. You're going to see a 5-year cycle on their body armor. So we just we're not going to meet that capital threshold of 20,000. It's just, and if we did that, basically what we'd be doing is throwing away body armor that's only 3 years old if we replace them all at the same time. So, next slide. Neshoba Valley Radio Watch for police, fire, and EMS. That's pretty much staying the same, 208,000. And then your salaries clerk line is your front lobby from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then the salaries overtime line is to keep the front lobby open from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. That was all in when Neshoba closed 10 years ago to keep the lobby open and for people to come in and receive the services. Neshoba is obviously shared by all the communities in Neshoba, and we all pay the same price across the board. Us, Harvard, Lancaster, Hudson, Sterling, Bolton, Berlin, everybody pays the same amount. Although right now we have the highest call volume.
For other reasons. For lots of reasons.
Hudson just joined, so they might actually take that next year.
Can I just jump in here real quick, Chief, if you don't mind? I want to add that the reason why this is flat is, and it wouldn't be, is because Sterling Hudson came on last year, and then Sterling is in the process of coming on, which is keeping the assessments down. The administration board has been strategic about finding the right communities to come in to our regional dispatch that won't be a burden on the regional dispatch, but will help level out these assessments. Eventually, if we don't keep growing, we will see a spike once the state 911 grants run out. You get grant funds when you onboard a new department to the district, but that will run out.
So while you brought that up, do you see any maximum to how many could be in a region?
I think that they're going to be limited by their physical space at their location at Devon's. So they're pretty tight in the dispatch area as currently configured. We're also negotiating with Devon's themselves on some more space. So there's potential there for build out, but I think with the space limitations, if we are going to remain there, we don't probably see many communities coming on unless they're small. Marlboro had been very interested in joining the regional dispatch, but we didn't feel, although they would have certainly benefited us financially, we didn't feel that was the right fit. So we are being strategic around who we're bringing on.
Yep. Yeah, if you remember, Fitchburg wanted to join 2 years ago. It just wasn't strategic enough for them to take on a load like Fitchburg. And the same thing with Marlboro, another city. It just wasn't. It's not feasible to take on that. Sterling and Hudson, those are more feasible for that center.
Okay. And then do you have just a rough estimate of how much we save by going to this versus in-house?
We could get that for you, but it's quite.
200,000 to not operating our own dispatch center.
Yeah.
How many dispatchers you'd have minimum 2 on 24/7?
24/7 employee benefits. I think we used to have six
Yeah, that sounds
dispatchers. Yeah, probably in the millions.
Yeah.
I think 10 years ago, I think the number was Sully would have known. We should have asked him when he was here, but I think that's the reason why we had switched over.
Okay.
Even at that cost, we're still at bare minimum.
Okay. I mean, I think most folks know that my view on regionalization is positive if we can do things, and I think this is a good.
The other thing too was all the grants that the state was throwing at regionalization and 911. That was one of the big contributing factors of why we moved over there 10 years ago, is because the money was just being thrown at it, and it was such a low cost.
Okay. Thank you.
Townsend was the one that jumped ship, right? They left?
Townsend went to Pepperell.
Oh, okay. But they were with us, or no?
Short period of time, yes.
Short period, okay.
Yeah. And then they went to, Pepperell started their own regional, which made more sense for them to go with Pepperell.
Okay.
Next. Police, fire, and medical, we share, police and fire share this line. This is for our new employees that have to go get physical exams, psychological exams, and drug tests. Seen an increase in this drastically by what the hospitals are now charging. On average, $722 for a physical for one employee. It's $550 for their psychological, and it's $125 for their drug test. So I think it was 500 at one point in time. It went up to 722. Again, we're at the mercy of the hospital here. So, you know, if you, between us and fire, if we each hire, it was only 4,000, we bumped it up to 6,000. Between, you know, the two of us, that's us just hiring 2 to 3 people. And each employee has to go through this.
Yep.
Some years, hopefully, some years we don't use it. That would be great.
Yeah.
But we've been in this cycle of hiring and retiring here for a little while. I hope it stops soon, that's for sure. But that's just one of those ones that we share, and all depends on who's hiring anybody. I have 2 vacancies, so I can tell you if I get those 2 vacancies, it's going to be $2,000. Vehicle maintenance, level funding that. Basically, that's staying level funded for our purchase of service, our supplies, and our fuel charges. Keeping that at 67. It's been working. We've been coming in pretty much right on that mark for the last couple of years. So hopefully cars don't break. Maybe now that there's a little more free cash, maybe capital, we'll be able to get 2 cruisers. We'll see. I'm just putting that out there. No, in our cycle, I mean, just to touch on that, if you replace the 2 cruisers every year, which is what we have been doing, it cuts down on the repairs. And that's the reason why we can keep these lines lower. That's just, the nature of it.
So
I think you
how many,
need bigger vehicles.
What's that?
I think you need the bigger vehicles.
Oh, yeah.
You let me sit in one, it's pretty tight.
It is, yeah. So the Ford Explorers are tight after all the equipment's in there.
Yeah.
One of the main projects, we're always replacing like the seatbelt. Basically, the seatbelt is hitting the officer's duty belt, so that's constantly getting worn. That's one of those. So yeah, it is tight quarters. Yeah.
how many cruisers do you have?
15.
15?
One Tahoe, and they're all the other ones are now hybrids. So, 2 old gas ones that are detective and SRO cars. The mileages are real low. And so, besides the vehicles that are used 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, if you have a vehicle that's assigned to one person, the mileage is going to be low. You're going to see less, obviously, less repairs on that.
You have a pickup too, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, the F-150.
It was a heated discussion a few years ago.
Yeah, supposedly. Yeah. It comes in handy in the snow. That one has the EcoBoost engine in it, and it's almost pretty similar gas mileage to the hybrid, which is pretty funny. But yeah, we do that pickup. That pickup enables us. We keep all the road closed stuff in there, so that's actually that comes in handy a lot of times when we have to close a road. All the stuff is in the back of the truck. An officer can jump right in it, bring all the sawhorses down, close the road immediately, and that saves a lot of time. Some of the times the DPW's on, we'll be able to use the DPW. They'll be able to come out there, and after hours when they can't get there right away, that's what that's used for.
And soon they'll be able to pick up the signs from the Flat Hill Bridge.
Yeah. Is the bridge open, Chris?
Everybody's politicking here.
We'll move on to animal control. Animal control, level funded. This is a budget that we really, we're gonna have, we're gonna have to talk about in the future here of really increasing it. This has been the same here for a while, and luckily we have a devoted employee of 46 years, Kathy Como, that does this pretty much out of the goodness of her heart and is willing to get paid minimum dollars for the calls. Last year alone, we had 305 calls for service for animal calls. 305 is not a part-time animal control officer. 18 of those were dog bites, and along with that, she has to do 47 barn inspections and 19 kennel inspections. All of those numbers increased from 2024. So,
I have a question with that. So are all, what do you categorize as animal control calls? Are all those calls answered by the animal control or sometimes police officers?
police officer will go there first, and then the animal control officer will show up if needed. So if it's something, so say there's a dead animal, and the officer can remove it, or DPW can remove it, then the animal control officer wouldn't show up. If it's a cat or a dog, the animal control officer does show up to remove that deceased animal. If it's a wild animal, then we'll remove it, but if it's a dog or a cat, basically, she takes the animal in, she'll try and locate the owner, and if not, then the animal will be cremated.
I was just curious, I'm not disputing what you said, that, it's a lot of work. I was just curious of the calls that you have, how many were attended by a police officer and how many were attended by the animal control officer. And I'm not sure if you will have that data, which is okay.
The way it gets categorized by dispatch, it comes in as an animal call.
Right, that's what I figured.
We would have to go through all 305 calls and just see
No, I
if she showed
understand.
up. I would say 85 to 90% she's showing up. That's just the employee that she is. That's just how she is. And if it's, like I said, some of the wild animal calls, maybe not, but if it's a domestic animal, if it's a cat or a dog, then she'll be showing up.
I think, the chief has mentioned that this is an area that we're going to need to explore. I think the town has benefited from this service agreement for a long time, but speaking to regionalization, this is an area that in the future, regionalization probably makes sense. And we've talked about starting to explore that because it does take some time, more than a year sometimes to get something in place, depending on how big of a regional group might be interested. But there are other regional animal controls around. Unfortunately for us, they're a little bit too far distance-wise, but this area isn't served by a regional animal control. So it is a possibility for a shared service at some point.
Yeah, I think Fitchburg and Limster, they share one full-time.
They've gone back and forth a couple times. I'm
Oh,
not
they
sure
have.
who's doing it right now, but yeah, it has gone back and forth. We're not the only city in town that's facing this. This is across the state need. You're seeing a lot of I was just speaking with the chiefs at our Neshoba meeting, and they're actually all using one animal control officer, and they're like, they can't take any more. Don't you ask? It's just there's a business opportunity out there for you. Any entrepreneurs out there watching? Next line. Injury leave. This is IOD. It's either used or it's not used. We haven't had to use it in a little while, so that's just a line that exists there in case that happens.
I wasn't sure what $4,000 would cover as an injury leave. Like, that's not a replacement of an officer.
No. That IOD cost is, I think it's, the officer gets injured on duty, and then that will cover their back pay
Examinations.
in an examination. It's,
Gotcha.
I haven't seen it used.
Yeah, I
Go
also,
look back and see when the last time.
When the last time, yeah. Knock on wood, our officers haven't been hurt, so.
I think it might have been Officer Omar. When he fell off of he was chasing a suspect.
Yeah, that was 2010.
Yeah,
I think it was 2010.
yep. And then he left Lunenburg, he went to Groton.
Next slide, the lockup. This one's level funded. Again, pretty close to using that same amount every year. This has to do with when somebody's arrested. We're trending a little high right now this year with that. We've seen a lot of arrests this year so far. I don't know why. I can't predict that line, but that line has gone down with the Worcester House lockup, safekeep. Some people might remember that line used to be $125,000 when we used to have to watch prisoners here at the station. Now we can bring all male prisoners to Worcester County Sheriff's, and they'll hold them overnight for us. But we still have some prisoners, female prisoners can't be brought there. People with medical issues cannot be brought there. So we still incur some cost here for that. Or if they're going to get bailed, then that would cover either the 4 to 6 hours that they have to be held at the station before they make bail. Funding sources, obviously a big part of that is the town budget. The other thing we have in here is the jail diversion mental health grant that we were awarded this year. That grant is $109,000 for our co-response clinician that we share with Lancaster. That was a grant that we had, lost, and then got back.
What?
Say one more slide.
Oh, next slide, sorry.
Oh.
We didn't get awarded the highway traffic and safety grant this year. Usually we used to get that every year. We applied for it this year. We didn't get that. That's what we used to buy all the radar units that we have around town, around the schools, and the mobile trailer one. They don't tell you why they don't give you the grant. I was looking for an explanation so that, maybe we could do better next year, but they basically either approve or deny you, and they denied us this year. So the only grant that we were awarded was this grant for the mental health clinician that I was speaking with Chief Moody over in Lancaster today. He's very happy with the clinician, Vanessa, and so far she's working out great with us. Those numbers have also increased. We saw mental health related incidents of 88 in 2024. 2025, we saw 131. So that's another line that went up. That was probably the main reason why we cities and towns have this jail diversion program grant, and mental health clinicians are again embedded in police departments statewide. So we'll see how that works out. That's most likely will be renewed in June, and hopefully we'll get another year out of it and continue that program. All right, thank you. Any questions?
Chief, before questions, I think, did you want to go over your organizational chart and talk about some of your staffing reconfigurations in terms
Sure.
of the detective and SRO change?
Sure. So I was looking to reconfigure from 2 SROs to 2 detectives. We would still have a SRO and a Comfort K9 in the school, but that would go down to 1, and we would implement a second detective. What happened, again here, I'll go to my sheet with these calls, and obviously what we're seeing is cyber crimes fraud has gone up from 40 to 60. Internet crimes against children, they were at 4 last year. This year they're at 10, and those increase in calls and those kind of cases actually are not a cut and dry case. Those cases take months and months to, if you want to solve them, if you actually want to look into them and find somebody responsible for them, then that's not just a cut and dry call. The last one obviously was publicized. Officer McNamara took place in. That was 6-7 months of an investigation to recover the money for all the people that were fraudulently taken for that money. The restructuring, we had that detective in there. We've had a second detective on the board there for a little while on that organizational chart, and I think this is probably the right time to do it.
So how would the school resource officer duties change on a day-to-day basis
We would just have that one officer that would just rotate in the schools.
across all the schools?
Yeah.
And how does
How it was before we implemented that 2 years ago.
how does it work today?
Today with the two officers,
Yeah.
honestly, right now, Officer McNamara is being pulled a lot for these other crimes, for
Okay.
these internet crimes that he has the expertise in. Unfortunately, like I said, these internet crimes and the crimes against children, you know, those investigations are a lot. These internet crimes have just taken off. And if you really want to prosecute and really want to find somebody that's, you know, involved in this stuff, the investigations are just, it's unbelievable how much goes into these. Because you're looking at subpoenas, search warrants, for the computer, for the phones, for the cloud storage, for all that. It's so extensive, it's so time consuming.
And right now, Chief, you have Officer McNamara is primarily in the middle high school.
Yeah.
And Officer Monroe is primarily in the primary school.
Primary elementary.
So so one officer would rotate through
Right.
all.
How we had it before when there was just one officer, it was just rotate through the schools.
Okay, so Turkey Hill is just kind of, doesn't require as much? Is that what?
Turkey Hill Primary,
Okay,
right now, has Officer Monroe.
okay.
High school, middle school in the same building has Officer McNamara. What it would do is, it would just go down to one officer, again, what Brad was doing for years, you just rotate through the schools.
So Brad would stay at as is?
No.
SRO?
No.
No.
Brad would go into the detective position. We would have one SRO.
Okay, but the dog would stay now with,
We have plans for another comfort dog.
Okay.
If it gets funded. We wouldn't be losing the comfort dog. It would be a different comfort dog. It wouldn't be Hank. Hank's on the verge of retirement. But yeah, we would still keep that comfort dog program.
We're not defunding, you're not defunding Hank.
No.
Hank is retiring.
Yeah.
How does the school department or the school committee feel about this?
I had a preliminary conversation with the superintendent informing her that this information was going to be relayed this evening here for the first time. And I will say that the information was not received well. No surprise there, right? It is a service to schools and it's something that folks have become reliant upon. But
is a service dog a capital item or just you?
No, the comfort dog?
Comfort dog,
No,
sorry.
it's just the $20,000 for the handling fee.
But the dog is, there's already is a dog.
Oh,
And
We don't have to purchase a dog or
Correct.
anything like that.
okay,
Nor, you know, Brad's been so excellent with that breeder that nor would it cost us.
okay.
But there is already a comfort dog, another comfort dog that Officer Monroe has that
Oh,
is not utilized. If we utilized another comfort dog, that's another $20,000 in
Yep.
handling fees
okay.
for, you know, we could have all the dogs we want if we want to fund them. You know?
So, I've forgotten when we instituted the SROs, because that was something that wasn't always there.
No, that was 2 years ago.
No, the first SRO,
We had one for all the schools.
yeah, but when was that came in line? Because I don't think when my kids were going through school.
That started, Lieutenant Zarate was our first SRO here in town, and that would have been 2015?
Yeah, makes sense. My last kid graduated 2016.
And that would have lined up with legislation that was passed in Massachusetts, that each city and town, each school had to have a police officer in the school. So
Oh,
that's delegated by state law.
Oh, great, another unfunded mandate, okay.
Correct.
So we had one SRO with I mean, our school setup has not changed, right, since
Yeah.
2015. And we had one SRO into 2024?
Correct,
So we're going back to the setup that we always had?
correct.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions? Jay, Tom? No? All right. Any questions from the public? Just raise your hand or unmute. Okay,
All right.
thank you so much. I also want to thank you again for the tour of the facility. That was really helpful for me.
Yeah, absolutely. More than happy. You know, right now the roof's leaking if you want to come by.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. The ice, you know, the ice dams right now, everybody's,
Where is that on the capital list?
I think it actually, it's.
I think it actually is.
It's this year.
I know, but is it
Oh.
above the line?
Yes?
Okay.
No, the roof. Yes,
The roof.
The roof, on the $1.8 million line, the roof was the last thing that was funded.
All right.
I'll be chipping ice tomorrow if anybody wants to come by.
Will the new roof fix that? The demo?
Yeah, I think what has to happen is that obviously that roof has, you know, played out its life. I think it's over 20 years old. And what would happen, I believe, is that you would actually do ice water shield higher. The specs are different. And, you know, 20 years ago, all you would do was ice and shield, I think, 3 feet up. I think the new specs, I mean, Chris would be able to talk to this, but I think maybe more like 12 feet is probably in order, if not the entire roof. It costs a little more in the front, but your roof doesn't leak in the end.
Yeah.
I think we're supposed to get snow, though.
Great. More ice.
You can use the ladder truck. All right.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
All right, preliminary budget. You're gonna drive?
I think I can drive.
All right,
All right, but I am going to stay seated.
that's fine.
So, thank you, everybody. Before I start, a couple things. First, to the public that's watching, I'm going to kind of jump to the punchline here. So the budget that I am presenting this evening is not balanced. It is reliant on an override, and that monetary amount is $3,357,213.88. I expect that this number will continue to change each and every week as we continue to make adjustments to various items. I'll try to identify some of those items where I think that there's movement, but I just wanted to kind of get that out in the advance. Does this mean to the public that is watching that we are going to town meeting with a $3.357 million override? No. At this point, what we're doing is identifying what the potential gap is, and there's going to be a lot of discussions and around how that looks and how do we get to town meeting from here. So this is kind of to the Finance Committee, who's been involved in this process over the past several months. You know where we've been to get to this point, but the public may not. So it's been a work in progress. It's continued to be a work in progress. The other things that I want to highlight is similar to the departments that you heard go already. If there is a cost of living increase for a salary administrative plan employee, if there is a collective bargaining agreement that's still under negotiation, any of those COLAs are not reflected in the current wages. You're looking at the current FY26 rates. Those additions will be taken care of, as we always do, in the salary reserve. And at this point, when I get to that, that has not been adjusted yet. I will highlight for you areas that are above level service, but I'm also going to highlight for you areas where there have been reductions. We have been deliberate in looking at our lines and seeing where we can make some reductions based on actual costs or actual service reductions themselves. I also want to be mindful or have you be mindful that when we make a reduction, whether it's in a service or just bringing something closer to actuals, two things happen. One is if that was a line that typically generated a lot of free cash, either for the capital program or whatnot, it's not going to generate the same amount back again. Secondly, when we do this, we can only do it once. So if we come closer to reality this year in our budgeting, we're not going to be able to do that same, apply that same logic here next year because we're already reduced it. So just a couple things to keep in mind as we start. But we're going to start with the revenues. So and we're going to go through how we get to each of these, but this is how the total revenues for FY27 pan out. The large majority of it, 71%, is local property tax, $36,332,000. State aid, $11,404,000. Local receipts, $3,360,000. Enterprise funds, $383,397.19 with an asterisk. Why is there an asterisk here? We are still working on building out the sewer enterprise budget and the PAC enterprise budget, and those indirect costs will potentially affect that number. Okay, so how do we get to the maximum allowable levy? We start with last year's levy limit of $32,910,811. We apply the Proposition 2.5 allowable increase to that number, $822,770.28. And then we add to that the estimated new growth of $400,000, and to that the excluded debt of $2,199,352.52. This gives us the maximum allowable levy of the $36,332,933.80. So new growth of $400,000. What is new growth? New growth is the additional tax revenue generated by construction, renovation, and other increases in the property tax base during a calendar year. It does not include increased value caused by normal market forces or by reevaluations. It also does not include if you have a repair of something. So you have a roof, you've put on a new roof, not new growth. You have a 3-bedroom house, and now you had an addition. Now that is the benefit of the addition is new growth. So that's a little bit of the difference there. You have here the past 10 years of new growth estimates against the actual new growth. So on the left-hand side, the bar chart is the original estimates, and on the right-hand side in the green is the actuals. You do see a spike in 24 and 25. There are a couple of items per the assessors that have led to those spikes. One is that in FY24 and 25, there was new growth that was missed in the prior fiscal years that they caught up with. And so you had a higher than normal new growth. And then some of FY25 is attributable to the Leominster Shirley Road large complex, the large commercial complex.
Is 26, that's estimated?
Estimated for, this is estimate, 518,000 is represented in the green bar to the right. That's our last actual compared to that estimate.
That's actual to date, or that's our estimated?
So the timing has already occurred. New growth actuals don't happen along our same calendar timeline. But yes, that's the actual new growth. Okay. Any questions on more questions on new growth before I move on to state aid? Okay. All right. So state aid is the second largest piece of the revenue pie. Currently, these figures are based on the governor's budget. Next will be the House budget, then the Senate budget, and the conference committee. And we won't know our final state aid until sometime likely in July or August. So we are going on the estimates at this point. Typically, things improve from the governor's budget. So the governor's budget is a fairly conservative and safe place to be budgeting from. So our total state aid receipts are $11,404,917, offset by our assessments of $1,069,349,000. You see the breakdown between different types of education, local aid, unrestricted government aid, veterans benefits, exemptions, state-owned land, and our offset receipts. Those offset receipts, school choice receiving tuition, and public libraries automatically sweep to the school and the library. Last year, on this same slide, there was also an asterisk indicating charter school tuition sweeps. That is untrue, so it does not. So charter school tuition stays here. Folks may say, and just to address that point, there's $9,726,003 in education aid. Why isn't that automatically sweeping to the school? And that's due to net school spending. So it's not a requirement. You heard a lot about net school spending, but that's the answer. So then we have our assessments: mosquito control, air pollution, RMV, MBTA, regional transit, school choice sending tuition, and charter school sending tuition. While we're on mosquito control, I did discuss at a recent select board meeting, this is a controversial proposal, but potentially eliminating the mosquito control program. We've been in the program since the 80s. There is mixed feelings on that, but it is something that we are discussing. At $91,562,000, I would be remiss to not bring it up for exploration.
So, yeah, I don't care for the mosquito control at all, if you want to know. But we
You don't
had.
what?
Huh?
You don't what?
I don't care for it.
You don't care for having it or
For
removing
us
it?
paying $90,000 for it.
She doesn't want it.
Oh.
She's fine with me eliminating it, if I was allowed to.
Yeah. Well, what does it
The
take?
process?
Yeah.
So, good question. So, the process to get into the mosquito control program is the same to get out. It requires a town meeting vote.
Let's do it. We used to have the 300-something thousand dollars, 250,000 from new.
Smart choice?
Yeah.
It's the third one down under education. You lost it for, I think,
Oh.
a year.
Yeah,
And
okay.
it was back as of last year.
Smart growth. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on state aid?
We did submit everything else there.
Yes.
Yeah. The school choice receiving tuition is now down to 77,000. Again, like I have brought this up to the school committee and the superintendent many times. And this used to be over close to $500,000, just prior to COVID. And that means that it's an extra, $400,000 that the Lunenburg taxpayer is now picking up on top of all the regular growth that we have, because this is not it's not like we take that money out from the school and now they become, it's always been the town cherry sheet assessment. So, I have asked, and I know they voted to offer 10 seats per grade at the high school this year. But this is on them. This is their responsibility to manage this, and they have, because of their actions, they have reduced funding that comes to us that serves them about $400,000, and they expect the Bloomberg taxpayer to pick up that tab. So just want to comment on that.
Any other comments on state aid? Okay.
Chapter 90, is
So Chapter 90 is.
the UGGA?
Nope. So Chapter 90 is specific road funding that doesn't come through the cherry sheet.
Okay.
It's a separate appropriation by the legislature. The UGGA has the MMA calls it the guttural name of UGA, unrestricted general government aid. It has no strings attached. It is state funding that comes to the town to be used as the town deems fit. The Chapter 90 appropriation, which is not on here, but I can get for you, they were looking at funding similar to that elevated level from last year. I think, if I'm correct, using the fair share tax as a funding source. I could be wrong. Okay, so,
One more question.
okay.
Regarding the mosquito control, that assessment, is that based on, is that a use it or lose it? Is that what we actually benefited? with
So
that?
it's a formula, and let me share the information that I've found about mosquito control with FinCom. But it is a formula. It's based largely on land mass area. So when you actually look at the member communities of the Central Mass Mosquito Control Project, you'll see the city of Marlborough sitting right next to Lunenburg, almost dollar for dollar, and they have a substantially larger budget than us. So it's to be in the program, apply the formula, total cost, let me do it backwards. Total cost of the Central Mass Regional Mosquito Program divided by the formula, we get the assessment. That's that. It doesn't matter how many times they might come out for extra sprayings, or this is the price.
Every year, I ask my address to be excluded.
Excluded.
So it doesn't increase when individuals ask for their,
Let me get you the information on that, though. And I know that this is going to be incredibly unpopular generally, so. All right.
The MBTA assessment, or, assessment.
What is it for? What do we actually get from it?
nothing.
I think it's based on region and proximity. I'll get that
And we're
from.
next door to a
Yeah.
MBTA. And then the regional transit, is that MART? What is?
Yes. I'm happy to provide the whole cherry sheet manual if I actually didn't know it existed until last night. And so I'm happy to share that newfound knowledge that there's a manual describing the entire cherry sheet apportionment. So let me share that too. More than you ever wanted to know on the cherry
There's a
sheet.
lot of information that is on those sites.
All right. All right, the smallest piece of the revenue pie is our local receipts. Definition of local receipts are local estimated receipts that include motor vehicle, meals, room, excise tax, and room excises, fines and forfeitures, fees, licenses and permits, other departmental receipts, penalties, interest on taxes, excises, and investment income. It's separate from real and personal property tax. They can vary greatly. And per the Division of Local Services, quote, local receipts should be budgeted conservatively and not at historically high levels. So here you have the FY27 local receipts estimate. I have not made any adjustments to local receipts for FY27. It's the same as last year. In the FY26 budget column, you will see that several have asterisks next to them. Those are lines that we increased last year. In reviewing the local receipt estimate, there's not too many areas that I'd feel comfortable at this point exploring. I know, Chris, Mr. Chairman, sorry, you had commented on investment income and what was the past investment income. You see there, we have it budgeted, that's the big outlier, I think, right, is we have it budgeted as $100,000 and the actual was $588,966.51. Similarly, last year, you had really high actuals on investment income at $414,000. But then before that, prior to that, FY23, $264,000. So this is wildly volatile and is based on the market. I think I'd like to see whether and if this continues more than 2 years, whether or not there should be making an
Have we
adjustment.
changed, though, based on the prudent investment laws that were
So the
passed?
the prudent investment rules, oh, you're saying for the investment income, is that what's impacting the investment income?
Yeah.
I don't believe that that's the key driving force, but we can check with our folks at Bartholomew around that.
Okay. Are we actually investing prudently, or are we just going along the same way we were before?
I'd have to check with the treasurer collector on changes that have been made. But this is mostly from the market.
Okay, I just, the prudent investment, I think, came in last year, we passed it. so-
Yeah, yes, 2 years ago, I
And there was a
believe,
lot of funds that we had dug through that were, not making much money compared to what one
But right.
meant to make.
If the performance of this fund is indexed upon the prudent investment rule as opposed to just market conditions, then that makes revisiting this a little
Yeah.
different, certainly. Similarly, motor vehicle excise tax is doing well. I'm concerned about, frankly, the economy and whether or not that's going to continue in this economy with car purchases. But we may revisit some of these local receipts.
How about the adjusting the ambulance as well?
Yeah, so we adjusted ambulance slightly last year. We could, that was another line that we talked about potentially revisiting. If we make adjustments to local receipts, it certainly helps the current operating budget. But it impacts the capital budget in the future. So there is a little bit of a balance there.
I mean, while I know that DLS, I think, wants between, 5 to 7% in free cash in the end of the year, isn't that the mark? I don't think that's beneficial for the towns. Anything that we have, that we leave it in free cash, that we don't estimate, we have to wait, whole year before we can actually use it. And that's a big leg way. So if that ambulance receipt from July 1st, that's extra, we cannot use it until July 1st of 2 years later.
No. So ambulance receipts, we can use, because we are estimating these receipts in our operating budget. Let me go back. Hold on, okay.
Because you just said that it impacts our free cash.
Right, but it's something different. So on this slide here, these local receipts, those ambulance receipts are contained within that blue chunk of the pie to fund our present current operating budget. So as they come in, they are available for use without further appropriation immediately, and they are being used to fund FY27's budget. If one of the other local receipts is not performing as we've anticipated, whether it's ambulance or any really account, it helps to offset the total local receipts because we are relying upon $3.36 million in the operating budget. Now, what I'm saying is that if we get closer to actuals, whatever amount above and beyond the $3.36 million that we're budgeting for, that's what can go to free cash.
Right.
For capital purchases.
And that's why I'm making the case to increase the estimate of the ambulance receipt so that we can use it in this fiscal year.
We can still use it even if it comes in and we've estimated it at 200,000, but it comes in higher, we can still use it.
We can't budget it, though.
We can't budget it, but we can use it.
Yeah, you would need another town meeting to,
No,
hold on. Don't you need a town meeting in order to make appropriations?
but you're looking not at the individual, let me go now back to this slide.
You can't, putting it simply, like Chris said, you can't
Right, but
budget it.
But if there's ones on this slide, if there's ones that don't make it, on this slide, we're looking for the totality of the $3.36 million. So if you have a high performer, we'll call it, and somebody is not performing, let's say building permits are down, the increase, the actual increase that you receive from ambulance receipts, for example, can be used to offset some other line that's not performing.
What was the actual, and the budget and the actual for FY '25 local receipts?
For local receipts for FY '25,
Isn't that the report that we have, 3.18 million?
so I would have to toggle, I'm sharing my screen right now, so I'd have to toggle out to look at the report.
Okay.
But I did share with you the,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the one that I'm looking at.
Okay.
It looks like the original appropriation was 3.168 million, and looks like we ended with 4.6 million, right? So that's a, big change. It's my point.
So as we
It's a
close,
45% increase of underestimated that we didn't use in FY '25. I mean, that's a lot. That, that I'm making the case for us to increase a bit
yeah, I
so
think
that we can budget more things.
we can look at a few of the lines here, I think, but I think we also want to make sure that we are generating enough for our capital plan, for stabilization, for if we're going to cover snow and ice with free cash at town meeting. It is a balance, but we can certainly continue to
a
revisit.
lever that can be pulled between the not balanced budget that you have here and the balanced budget could be looking at being less conservative
Yes,
on estimating
that's correct.
new growth in local receipts.
I don't think on new growth, but on local receipts. I think new growth is pretty,
There's not a lot to play with there.
yeah,
but-
right, you're pretty close. 118,000 over estimated, that's cutting it. But local receipts, certainly, that is a lever that could be played with.
And I thought new growth, does that come from the assessors or no?
It does.
Yeah, because I saw them taking a vote.
Yes, so they voted for the 400,000.
Right. Yeah, the making the case, at least for me, that, it's good to save money, that we don't touch it for 2 years because of possibility of doing capital and this and that. That's not, my view, good financial planning. Personally, I think the voters, we had a town manager, Carrie Spidell, that used to keep our free cash at a 1.5%. It was tight. And whenever we needed to do a project, we planned for the project. And we borrowed, we did, we raised, like, same thing, raising for capital. Like, let's buy with cash and not necessarily borrow. But, this thing of putting money, like, knowing that we're buffing, getting a little extra in the budget, it just doesn't give us a clear picture of what is our financial situation. So and I think I said this to you on the phone today, you're telling me we're going to need over $3 million in the override, but at the same next breath, you're telling me we had $3 billion
For cash.
extra. It's like, well, it sounds like we have the $3 million. So we just got to be a little tighter in my professional opinion, having the finance background, that we should try to run a little tighter to really get a clear picture of our actual financial situation.
Yeah, we're happy to continue to look at this, and like I said, we're going to continue to look at everything as we go.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So FY '27, total revenue available for appropriation, our starting revenue from that combination of the levy, excludable debt, new growth, Prop 2.5, starting revenue is the $51,436,771.99. And then we need to start subtracting things. So the first thing that we subtract from that is those two sweeps, the school choice and library sweep from the cherry sheet. The next is the assessor's overlay. The assessors also did in that same meeting where they voted, New Growth voted this overlay amount of $260,000. There was discussion on whether that could be reduced, and I think that they had a fair amount of dialogue around it and felt comfortable with the $260,000. And then those cherry sheet estimates, cherry sheet assessments, the right side of the state aid, at $1,069,349. The next thing that we are subtracting is any amount of taxation that is being applied to the capital plan. So I have, at this point, it's level with what was last year's appropriation, $244,576. That leaves $49,750,699.99 available for appropriations. So now let's talk about expenditures. I am going to ask tonight if I can answer questions about specific budgets. I will. But as departments are coming in and presenting their full budgets over the next couple weeks, I'm going to ask if we can try to keep it at a little bit higher level, prepare questions as we go. But these are the main budget categories: maturing debt, general government and classified, general government, public safety, DPW, facilities and building, human services, schools, culture and recreation, intergovernmental, tax title. We'll go over each of these. But you see that the FY27 preliminary across all categories against the FY26 budget shows an increase of $4,731,000, 477, sorry, let me just start that again, sorry, $4,731,477.76 at a 9.78% increase, and that percentage varies greatly across each category.
The public safety number includes the fourth shift.
That's correct. The public safety number is the number that was presented this evening.
And the DPW has full restoration of the,
It does not, but we'll get there.
okay, I mean, I know we're going to hear Bill in a couple weeks.
You're going to hear a little bit from me tonight,
Okay.
yeah. So,
Is your FY25 actual number incorrect? It says 21 million.
oh, you know why? So I had an error in that school FY25 actual, and I adjusted that, but I didn't sum the whole column. So no, it is not correct. Thank you. This is, I did say, should I put these online in advance for the public to follow along? I said, no, because invariably there is going to be edits that we need to make on the PowerPoints before we put them online. So, thank you.
Do you know what the
number
total
is?
is?
Let me stop sharing. Sure.
You can just update it.
Oh, rats.
Only Karen left us.
What?
I've been watching, he said, are you watching the waiting room? I said, yeah, but Karen left us.
Oh. I have been watching it too.
Yeah, she's done.
Almost there. Toggling between sheets here.
I muted PAC by mistake earlier and shut down the audio.
45, 568, 511, 60.
What was it again? 45?
45,
Okay.
568, 511, 60. And I'll share with you the revised. I think I heard the fire chief say that there was one in his too that needed adjustment. All right. Let me start sharing again. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. All right, so this next slide shows graphically how that breaks out. The largest portion of the budget is the schools. That's both Monty Tech and Lunenburg Public Schools at 57%. You see public safety, DPW, general government unclassified, which contains insurance, and general government taking up the next largest sections, and then you have some really small portions of the total budget, human services, culture and rec, at 1% of the total operating budget. So the first item is maturing debt. There is $2,537,578.36. This is a small decrease over last year of $9,862. There is a variety of excluded debt listed here. Then on this next slide, there's non-excluded debt, and there's also enterprise fund supported debt. All three, whether they're excluded, supported by enterprise funds, or inside the levy, all get funded from this same line.
The line that says turf field, and then parentheses 760K, that's how much was borrowed?
Yes.
And that still has like, what was that, a 15-year?
Do you have the debt schedule in the FinCom folder?
We do have it. I
I just
wondering
can't
if you
keep,
remembered it.
I don't remember it, and I can't keep, yeah, when I'm
No, that's
sharing,
fine. that's
thank
fine.
you.
We do have the information.
Okay. All right. So general government unclassified, $4,312,004.12. This is a $204,294.99 increase, or a 4.97% increase. Workers' compensation, I'm just gonna, if I don't hit it, there's nothing of note, or it's level funded. So, workers' compensation reduced by 10,000. This is a reduction based on several years of actual trends. So this is not a service cut, this is just reducing to actuals. Employee retiree insurance, this does not include school active employees, but it includes town and school retirees and town active employees. We saw a 8.85% increase based on our current plan. We are negotiating with the PEC currently, which may affect that 8.85% if there are plan design changes, but based on our current iteration of the plan, that is our proposed increase. Gratefully, a lot less than the 20% we were facing. However, it's not good. The retiree plan increases come in January. I'm estimating 16% on Managed Blue for seniors and 19% on Medex based on recent trends, but we won't actually know. I'm also budgeting for 6 family and 6 individual Blue Care Elect plans within that. So there's a total increase of $193,440.27 for a 5.86% increase.
So-
Now, you just heard me say, you just heard me say that the active plan increased by 8.85%, but, and we're estimating 16 and 19% increases, but yet the total line only increased by 5.86%. Why is that? Because I went back and rebuilt this budget from the bottom up based on actuals. This is one of those areas where we are much closer to what the actual budget is, and so we're far less conservative in this area. We will turn back less likely in this area.
So when you say budgeting 6 family and 6 individual, you mean above our current staff level?
Correct. Holding those plans.
Okay.
I don't understand the retiree plan increases in January, and you're estimating it. It's middle of February. What-
So so we get the numbers, I think in the fall. The increase hits in January. So this is perspective. This is for January of 2027. The
So we don't
increases.
know what the increase is until the fall.
I believe it's the fall, right? We don't get the retiree increases at the same time that we get the active plan increases. Is that right, the fall for retirees? I wish we got them all at the same time because it makes budgeting incredibly difficult.
How many employees do we have on the town side that are active employees, not retirees.
So
That we,
I don't have all that data here with me right now to
Okay.
present, but when I present the general government unclassified
You'll have it,
budget,
okay.
I will, so if these types of things that you want details on how many, please include on your list of questions so that we can have those for you.
I think Karen took a note on it, too.
Okay.
Are you using the open jobs to kind of estimate these 6 family and 6 individuals, like the 2 that are open on the police department, things like that? Like, how are you getting these numbers? Like,
So frankly, I'm very nervous of budgeting so close to actuals here. We need to leave some room.
okay.
So that does 2 things. One is that this is intentionally sometimes a space that we can go to for transfers if we need to, because it's just is a budget that holds substantial accounts, right? We also know that we are moving potentially to a different opt-out plan. That may have effects that people are coming off. So it's not necessarily a one-for-one for every head. I'm just identifying these are the positions that I'm holding.
Okay.
So I feel comfortable that no matter who we hire, we have enough. People come and go from the organization. People get married, people get divorced. So there's lots of changes. But I think I'm comfortable enough with this, but I'm still flagging my concern that this might be a little close.
Do you have an idea of when you'll be done with negotiations with the PEC?
I do. So the negotiations have to be concluded by the end of March because notifications need to go out for April. It is the goal that this is voted at the March 17th, no later than the March 17th meeting of the Select Board.
Good day.
It's St. Patrick's Day. We're very close. Our final meeting with the PEC is next week. I believe our final meeting with the PEC is next week. Okay, our liability insurance, a small increase there, 2.5%. Life insurance, we may need to revisit this budget, but it's presently budgeted with a $5,000 increase based on our actuals. We need to do some more exploration in there, but this is like a $15,000 total budget. And then the Medicare line that you see is not for Medicare, it's for your FICA tax. So we will calculate this at the end because it's based on total employee wages. All right, so I've left that alone for now. General government, we have $3,205,051.24. This is a $242,788.10 increase, or an 8.2% increase. The budget includes the following departments. So Select Board, that has a $21,615.01 increase for 11.99%. Some of that is bringing in our PR crisis communication contract fully within the Select Board office. It had been bifurcated out for billing purposes, but just to bring it all here. And there's some other actual cost increase there. Town manager, this is an above-level service request. It funds half a year of an assistant town manager position at $60,000. I've assumed a 15% increase to our legal fees, although I have not received any notification that they are going up. That is an assumption. And reductions have been made to other lines. So town manager total increases $77,028, much of which is the half year of the assistant town manager. I axed the finance committee meetings and school budget by a whopping $225 because there's not a lot of use in that account, but there's still plenty of room left for you to attend meetings in the schools. Finance committee reserve, I've left alone. Salary reserve. So as I indicated earlier, salary reserve has not been yet adjusted for FY27. I simply do not have enough information based on where I am with bargaining. So it will include the COLA for the SAP employees and any wage adjustments associated with the first year of the 3 labor contracts that are currently under negotiation, DPW, fire, and clerical union. Based on where those negotiations are at, I do not have enough information to make an adjustment one way or another to this salary reserve line. So it's funded at last year's rate at this point.
So for the town manager, you're funding half a year, but you're hiring a full-time assistant.
The intention would be to hire a full-time assistant town manager that wouldn't begin until January of 2027 to just ease, we have some stuff that we need to do still to clean up, and I don't think bringing on another person during that is actually the best to do. But
Yeah, no, we
B,
tend to take this
it's-
approach.
It's to ease it into the budget.
Yeah, we tend to take this approach. It's just that, we know this, but you are hiring a full-time assistant town manager with this proposal, and then the current assistant town manager, HR director position becomes an HR director position?
Correct. And I don't think that there's any, based on wage compensation, I don't think there'd be any adjustments or savings there. I think based on her salary and her hours, she's appropriately compensated. So it's removing the title and putting that elsewhere. To those who are watching, we're talking about the Assistant Town Manager, Julie Beliveau, who serves in the function of Human Resources and Procurement. The reality is the vast majority, if not all of her position, is consumed by human resource functions. And so the Assistant Town Manager functionality of being able to lead special projects and run things and work on different elements of the operations, that's just simply unable to be achieved through the current staffing structure. I think it's very common when a community first, especially if they don't have a human resources position, I think it's very common for them to bring on an assistant town administrator or assistant town manager that has the functions of human resources as a first step. We've done that. It's been a couple years. Town of Lunenburg is ready for an assistant town manager.
So there'll be no adjustment to the salary of Julie or the person in
Correct.
that position?
Correct.
Even though there'll be some
Tight.
stuff's coming off?
There's really not any stuff coming off other than her title. Her job remains exactly the same, unless we pull, the only thing that would come off is if we hire an assistant town manager who either is MCPPO certified, procurement certified, or becomes procurement certified, and they took that procurement piece. The reality is that allows her to do all of the HR stuff that we're not getting to.
Are you going to be thinking about adding that component to the job description, the procurement component?
I think an assistant town manager is going to be holding some procurement.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Because if they don't have MCPPO certification, they will be receiving it. All right. Next up, also, this slide continues on with general government. The town accountant, we have contractual increases for the finance director, town accountant. We have a $25,000 increase for the annual audit. This was improperly budgeted in FY '26. There are some reductions due to retirement and folks coming in differently on the wage scale. So the total impact is not quite as high at $33,260.48, or 10.29% increase. The assessors. The assessors has what I'm going to call an above-level service request of $27,500 in funding for the temporary special assistant to the assessor's position, which takes up much of the $27,632 increase. So if folks recall, the town of Lunenburg has a number of directives from the Department of Revenue to complete prior to the next full reevaluation year, which is in 3 years, I believe. We had put money in at the annual town meeting in a standalone line with the hopes that we were going to do an RFP. At the fall town meeting, we switched that money into a salary line and created a temporary, this temporary position. And so there's $27,500 currently funded in the FY26 operating budget by way of that transfer. We are in the process of hiring now for the position. This task will not be finished by the end of June 30. We will not likely utilize 100% of the $27,500 in the current fiscal year, and this allows us to have a way in the operating budget to continue to fund this. This is temporary. This will go away once we are done with the project. Treasurer, collector, there were small adjustments made here for some additional training and certification stipend for the collector certification that will go to Mylene. $1,600 of this $7,814 is what I would consider above-level service, and that's for the additional training and associated costs. IT. Here is where you have actual service reductions to offset increases. So Munis, about $108,000 annually, I believe, was initially supported by ARPA funding. It's no longer being supported by ARPA funding, and so it needs to be absorbed 100% in the operating budget. That is a huge jump in this line over last year. So how did we get only a $43,000 increase? We reduced the IT contractor for down to 4 days a week. That's already, you've heard me represent to you that that's already started in January. I'm exploring whether or not, even in FY27, if we can drop an additional day and drop down to 3. We also eliminated the ClearGov software at the cost of $20,000, and telephone charges have an increase here to the actuals. Town clerk, together with the elections and registration and census lines, it is an election year, and so this $15,000 increase, $15,328.97 increase is largely being driven by the election costs. Land, and if folks who are really interested in looking back at old actuals, you will see fluctuations every time there's an election year and then decreases the next year in the town clerk's line. Land use. So not a large increase at all here. The reason being you had some high-paid folks leave the organization, offset similar to the assistant accountant position where you have top-end staff being replaced by staff that's newer to the organization. So the impact of other department heads that have come on board was not as great. Town report, substantial increase here, $9,000 increase, 128.57%. Why? Because we were not truly funding the mailing of the books, both the annual town meeting book and the special town meeting book. So this is adjusted to actuals. This is not an above-level service request. Although the select board has not voted on any town meeting warrant articles at this point, they are discussing again the town meeting warrant article relative to, that was at the last town meeting relative to this mailer. If that changes, that would have impacts here. Although we wouldn't know the outcome until we get to town meeting. Central purchasing, we've level funded it. As a reminder, postage from all departments last year was moved into this line. It seems to be working well. It's a $50,000 in postage, and I was a little concerned of whether or not we'd be able to manage it, but it's being managed well, all collectively in one spot. But sometimes I do want to flag, because it was moved, sometimes when you look at old actuals and there's something that's not quite matching up, that it might be just that postage that's moved from there to the central purchasing line, if that makes sense. Physicals, similar to you heard from the chief about the increasing costs for the police fire physicals for onboarding new employees. We're also have non-police fire employees that need to have pre-employment physicals. This is an adjustment to actuals. It's a substantial increase, but it's an adjustment to actuals here.
Related to postage, is there things we mail that we could opt out of? Like, I get a quarterly tax bill and we could just go online and look at it.
but he hasn't.
No, that's what I
Could
say.
you opt
I
out?
don't know. We
That's a
could
good
find out.
question,
We could definitely.
whether there's a legal requirement that we have to mail.
I mean, I opt out of almost everything, because
Yeah. Let's see if the software has it. Also.
I know, I like the electronic as well. Okay, I think that's it on general government. Yes, it is. Okay, next up, public safety. $5,118,965.26. This is a large increase, $571,115.98, or 12.56%. Police Department, you heard from the chief earlier, it funds contractual obligations. Part of funding that contract, we eliminated one sergeant position. We are reducing one SRO, adding one detective, not changing headcount there, but it does have some effects. And so the total is $175,385.45. No changes to police lockup or injury leave. You've heard about the $2,000 increase in medical. And the fire department, total increase of $379,967.51. It does fund the above-level service request of fourth shift 42-hour fire. It also includes, I don't think the chief spoke to this when he was here, but it includes wage adjustments for his anticipated vacancy. Oftentimes, when folks have been in an organization for a long time and they retire, they are not being compensated near the market, and that is the case here. Also increasing the supply line to the actuals, and no change in fire hydrant expense. Radio equipment maintenance, that's the $5,000 increase for equipment maintenance. Radio watch, de minimis, $2,000 increase. Sealer of weights and measures is in the public safety budget. You didn't hear either chief speak to it, but as they wouldn't, but there is a large increase here of $6,763 or 147%. We no longer have a local sealer of weights and measures. We contract with the state. And so this is a fixed rate contract at the $11,000 and change that it is for the sealer of weights and measures. And we're billed annually for that. I actually wasn't necessarily aware that this contract was executed prior to my arrival until I received the bill several weeks ago and saw that the budget was not appropriately budgeted for that. So that was a surprise, but thankfully only $11,000
these
one.
guys find a lot nowadays.
Sealer of weights?
Yeah.
Do they find a lot of incorrect?
Yeah.
I don't know. I do know that, there's quite a lot of activity, and like even, the farm, the produce, to weigh the produce at our local farms where you're, thank you, Dick's. Thank you. I was going to say Riches. I was like, I know this is not right, but close. At Dick's, they were frantic coming in. We need the sealer of weights and measures. Who's the sealer of weights? Because you need to weigh your produce there when you're checking out. So gas stations, but I don't know if they find a lot of people putting a little extra weight on the scale, if that's what you mean. It is nice that it's a flat rate, though.
So as we, because we're still in public safety, as we, move forward, like you said, in these conversations, we are doing two things within the fire department, which is we are increasing coverage, and we are by adding that fourth person more consistently, and we are doing the fourth shift. I'm not saying they are not necessary, but both those added makes that 379 really closer to 600,000, because we are adding 16 hours of coverage. That line is 221,000, the on-call firefighters. And we're maintaining it because we're now going to shift it that. So we are going to, you are proposing an override, but we will need to do have a balanced budget, that we bring it to town meeting as well. You know, and now, you know, I think the fourth shift would be my higher priority item, so that we can get that, you know, in place. I'm just saying, it is two different things that amounts to $600,000. And my priority would be for, you know, that fourth shift. Because I can't imagine being expected to work 48 hours the way our firefighters are currently. It's kind of crazy, so that's my comment on that one.
Anything else on public safety? No, okay. All right, Public Works, to your question. Okay. $2,807,177.51. It is a $330,224.22 increase, or 13.33% increase. Highway Administration. You heard from the facilities director earlier that the Teamsters Local 170, of which the facilities department has 2 employees, has not negotiated their contracts since June 30th of 2024. So the rates that are currently in this line are those old rates. Those are the rates as of June 30th, 2024. I anticipate that there may be substantial increases here, but I don't have enough information to estimate what those would be. But just to be clear, this line does not contain any contractual increases to fund Teamsters 170 contract. It also includes a new above-level service part-time administrative position at $25,000 to assist the DPW executive assistant, who also services the facilities department, as you've heard. Ms. Tucker is responsible for quite a lot of processing of invoices that's frankly above and beyond the level that is processed by other typical departments due to the nature of the department. There's a lot of grant reporting, Chapter 90 reporting that's associated with that, so the request is to help with a part-time person offset some of that labor. There's also, in the highway construction and maintenance line, a $25,000 above level increase in the drainage line. That line was increased last year, but to continue to address the backlog of drainage work. There is an actual increase for streetlight costs. And then there's an increase, so we didn't restore the pavement management plan. We kept the pavement management plan as last year's level, not restoring it to the pre-FY26 levels. However, there is an increase of $340,000 to address catch basin cleaning and street sweeping. So that line sees a total increase of $371,000, or 58.44%. I'm sure you're going to have lots of questions for the director about that. Traffic signs and devices, we reduced by $11,700 to reduce the line striping closer to the actuals. Public Works also includes the vehicle maintenance for not only DPW, but also police and fire. You heard both chiefs talk about their increases, but there's also a $5,000 increase for the DPW line. Cemetery, the only matter to note is that the contract's under negotiation there as well. Also a member of the Teamsters Union. Tree removal was increased by $1,000 to increase the overtime line associated with tree removal. Snow removal, we are allowed to deficit spend. This is the only line that we are allowed to deficit spend by statute, provided we don't make a reduction ever. And not ever, but under most circumstances. So there's just a 2.5% increase. Director increases the line by 2.5% so that we're not always falling behind. At some point, we probably should increase this line so that we're not making up such a gap to close it out, but with more analysis over this has been a difficult year for snow and ice. This is hopefully an outlier, right? So a longer look. We don't want to go too high, but nonetheless. Recycling program. So a large decrease here of $106,646, or 22.69% decrease, changing nothing about the program. In the discussions about the recycling program in general, the director did have a deeper dive review of his actual costs and felt that he could adjust down this line closer to actuals. That said, we've already had meetings with Shaw to discuss potential changes to the recycling program to see if a sticker type program or opt-in might work. Townsend recently did it with Shaw. It serves, there's no issues in terms of the provider in moving to that type of system. They're out collecting data for us right now on number of households, but there are some logistical things that we might need to explore, but we are looking at that.
So we'll hear more about that with Bill's presentation.
I don't know if you're going to know, I don't know if he'll have a lot more details yet. This will take a while to work on.
No, but we'll hear about the reduction.
Yes.
Okay. And just for everyone's awareness, we shuffled the calendar a little bit here. Bill's going to present on March 12th.
So on public safety or public works, you're increasing the $340,000, $370 for catch basin. Is that in lieu of the utility that they were planning to do? Because that was about the number that Bill said he needed.
I'm going to let Bill address that with you about exactly how he sees that operating. It's my understanding that that's insufficient to fully cover MS4 compliance. It's not, we would need a higher number than that to be fully compliant, but it's to help address at least that element of compliance.
Well, they're also not looking for funding as part of that annual town meeting for that bill, for that department, for the
Stormwater utility.
utility,
So the stormwater utility proposal that would be potentially going to town meeting is around setting up the mechanics of the utility, but not setting up the budget and not voting the budget yet either.
But like, I remember his presentation it was about this amount that he said, either give me this on the general fund or we set up a utility. And I was like, I think many people here said, okay, well, let's consider that. But you haven't had a conversation with the stormwater people if they, so is this you offering them? Like, I'm trying to understand, because I thought we were going to wait for them to do their thing and decide what they were going to come back to us. But it looks that, well, we are being proactive on doing something without maybe.
Well, so a couple of things. So stormwater's meeting, as I understand tonight, they might be wrapped by now, but they did meet tonight. So I don't know what their conversations have been. I have not had any conversations with the stormwater task force. I've had conversations with the director. My understanding of this is only around that one element that we should have been doing for years, which is catching up with the catch basins and the street sweeping that's required annually.
So I think based on the meetings that I heard and, things that I watched, is the permit, we are not in default of the permit. The permit allows you to build the practices to get.
Oh, no. We are in default with the permit. So it's that we're not under an order. There is no federal entity in here, EPA, ordering us to do anything. If they were to come in and look at our practices, I think that would be a different conversation. So we have a permit, but we are not doing the things that are required by that permit.
Yeah.
So the permit has required annual catch basin cleaning and sweeping for a number of years, and we're just not doing it. Actually, that was eye-opening to me in the DPW director's presentation, that we're not really doing any of this. That was surprising. And so this is to address that we need to be doing at least the catch basin cleaning. If this is I don't know if this is a sufficient amount, I don't believe it is, to be in lieu of the utility, but certainly that's something to explore with Bill on the 12th.
Yeah, I mean, that was the number that he gave us. The other thing with the recycling that, and I think I mentioned this on the phone with you, but if you could also make note, like many other towns, they're much more strict about what they allow to recycle. If we are putting things that are on the recycling bin that we know it's not going to be recycled, we're just putting trash on the recycling. So, redefining what the program is, what are we allowed to go in that recycling bin? Because I believe plastic, that we throw it in the recycling, I believe it's something like 3 or 4% of all plastic actually gets recycled. And there are places that I've been to, or vacation to, they only allow 1 or 2. And here, I think we go all the way to 7. Also, when we see Bill's, when I see his presentation, it'll be good to understand what is his plan for Chapter 90. So, okay, thank you.
All right, moving right along. All right, facilities and buildings. So I'm not going to go through too much of this because you just heard the entirety of his, but Chris Roos, but $1,203,408.16. It's $136,011.76 increase, and 12.74%. We've heard the contracts under negotiation includes additional $25,000 increase to the purchase of services line, $15,000 of which is above that level service, to address those items that he talked about that are high value, unanticipated, or high cost, unanticipated, but don't rise to the level of capital. The public buildings increases largely due to pulling the TCP building fully into the operations and budgeting it, so $66,142.90, or a 29.88% increase. This kind of next piece about the park director, changes every day. So we've had 2 interviews today, and so we might not be vacant for much longer. Town is actually interviewing. On a later slide, I have something that I actually thought it was in this one that says, if this position is not filled, we may need to revisit the staffing configurations really to get the beach open. But it appears that we may not have to revisit that. So total increase in parks of $11,000 or 8.81%, obviously depending on who is hired, that may change.
The vehicle allowance. Have we looked at a vehicle allowance for the DPW director?
Instead of a vehicle?
Yeah.
We haven't. We
A
can.
vehicle is very expensive.
It's very common for DPW directors to have a take-home vehicle, but there's no reason that we can't look at that.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay.
I mean, the school facilities director has a brand-new truck. So,
You know my thought on that.
say it again?
I mean, I think everyone knows my thought on that, but
A take-home vehicle?
The previous one was, yeah. I don't know the current, because they just have someone that joined them the past, I think like in the fall.
Yeah.
The one before did have a take-home vehicle. And that was part of the agreement with him. Yeah, it was a take-home vehicle.
Do not know that.
That's their facilities director. Yeah.
All right. Are we ready for human services? Okay. This is one of those tiny budgets, 1% of the total budget. So $480,162.04, a tiny increase. General health expense, this is the Board of Health. Again, contracts under negotiation here. That increase is really reflective of last year's COLA. Neshoba Board of Health and Neshoba Nursing, this is assessment increases of 30% on both of those. I was frankly displeased to open up the assessment letter and see such a large increase, especially where the nursing position had been vacant for some time and we weren't getting necessarily the level of services at the Adult Activity Center that we were getting when the position was filled. I have expressed general displeasure around this. Nonetheless, it is still less expensive than if we were to bring all of this in-house. The Council on Aging is currently showing as a $20,147.50 decrease. I'm not planning, at least at this point, of decreasing the Council on Aging. There is, right now, there's been a lot of staffing iteration changes and a lot of discussions around staffing iteration. And so as budgeted right now, we have the director position, the outreach position, the full-time meal site manager position, and the administrative position. And so there was this amount of money for a part-time position, and I need to explore with the director some more about what that looks like and what is it that we're funding and what is the long-term staffing plan to really understand how the staffing configuration makes sense. So right now I just have it blanked. It's probably not going to really be a decrease, most likely.
Say that again?
It's probably most likely not going to be a decrease in actuality.
Yeah, so I agree with you on getting clarity on what we're getting. I shared with you. But there are services that, the center lacks, that we could be doing better for our seniors. So I definitely, I appreciate you having the conversation you're having, likely one that I would have it as well. It's actually, I asked that question in our last Council on Aging meeting, but it's level service and figure out what other services we can provide to our seniors. I think it's a good conversation to have.
Agreed. There's been a lot of changes and different folks coming and going in the organization have changed kind of what the staffing plan would be. And I think that this is soon to be the first time that all 4 of those positions will be simultaneously filled. And so I think some of it is, what does that look like now? Where are the gaps? And then to go from there.
So we see them in 2 weeks. We'll have that ironed out by
I would
then.
hope so.
Okay.
I don't know if it'll be approved by the Council on Aging, but.
Yeah, we'll have a meeting.
All right. All right, schools. So total between all schools is $30,115,565, or $2,993,570 increase, or 11.04% increase. So this budget includes the Lunenburg Public Schools at a $2,875,712 increase, 11.15%, and Monty Tech, who you heard from, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, with the 8.83% increase. I'm going to let the superintendent and her team speak to what this request represents, but as I understand, this is the restoration budget minus a few items. And I'm going to let the superintendent speak to that next.
But we don't know what that is, so it doesn't matter.
All right, culture and recreation.
So just to confirm, that's 11% over last year's budget, not including the $500,000?
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to.
I'll double check that now. Oh, now you're making me worried because I was doing this.
And that number also, the increase, they have a total request. But that increase is not considering the $500,000, right? So I'm just going to round numbers like,
So the
Let's see.
budget, yeah, the budget that I received from the school business manager, if you look at the bottom line of FY '26, it's not what the town's budget was at FY '26, it's the budget plus the 500,000. So I don't have a budget from the school showing the budgeted number plus the 500,000 plus the FY '27. It's a little difficult to speak to with clarity around that one point.
All right, well, we'll hear them next week.
But I do want to double check that 11.15% is over the budgeted number and not the budgeted number plus 500,000. I'm going to confirm that.
yeah, I was wondering if that 2.8 million is really not 3.3 because they're counting the 500 to be
Let me
part
double
of
check.
last year. So
Let me double check.
that's my question. Is it a
I-
Is it a 2.8 or 3.3 because they're counting that that 500 is a given?
Is it over the, right, is it over the
That's-
budgeted or is it over the budgeted plus the 500?
Right, that's-
I'll double check that piece for you. All right. Culture and recreation, another very small 1% portion of the budget, $662,162.24 or $23,125.48 increase or a 3.62% increase. This includes two very small budgets, band concerts and historical commission. I know we've had some conversations about band concerts, and that's still funded, but perhaps might be operationally a little different. Remains to be seen before the season started. But the library is where you're seeing a change. There is a $5,000 above-level service increase to programs, but there's also offsetting decreases to book services there. So there's an increase, but a accompanying decrease. There is a $10,937 increase to library materials and an increase to professional development, but also with professional development increase offsetting decrease to mileage. So some small, potentially above-level service requests. Intergovernmental, $2,635,339.93, or $238,289.95, or a 9.94% increase. This is largely being driven by the Worcester Regional Retirement Assessment. The vast majority of that, we have no discretion over this amount. So this is essentially what this budget is, but it is a large increase, and we should expect similar 9.95% increases year over year. Very small increase of $111.95 to the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission. Last year in the FY '26 budget, we brought the cherry sheet assessments inside the operating budget. Not really too sure necessarily what our logic was. You saw how we handled those assessments, taking them right off the top in the early slide. That's how we're going to handle it. Rather than, they do not need to be appropriated as expenditures as their cherry sheet assessments. Okay,
Can I
tax.
ask one question on the prior slide?
Yeah.
And maybe it's just something you can send us or point us to, but the regional retirement, who gets charged for an individual that retires? Where they end up retiring from, or like where they were over their career?
The last municipality standing owns the retiree.
Okay, so they could work 40 years somewhere, come here for a day, and then we own them?
Yep, right, yep.
Good.
All right. When we talk about retirement, this doesn't include teacher retirement, but it does include all other school and town employees that do not pay into MTRS. Tax title, it's final section of expenditures here with no change at $30,500. So ongoing matters that have budgetary impacts, you've heard me talk about some of these, but just to recap, town's currently negotiating with 3 labor unions, DPW, who's been out of contract since June 30, 2024, Fire, and the Clerical Union. We also have negotiations ongoing with the Public Employee Committee relative to health insurance. So some of these things are going to likely yield increases, and some of these things will likely yield decreases. Potential wind down of the operations of the TC Passios building, depending on how quick some of that comes together. Perhaps we can make some budgetary adjustments to the facilities line prior to town meeting, but there'll also be subsequent impacts to the PAC's operating budget, where they're going to have to pick up most likely some lease costs that are higher than the $500 that we charge at TCP. We are exploring changes to the recycling program as discussed, exploring feasibility of further service reductions with our IT service provider, dropping down to 3 days if possible. We're discussing those staffing configurations at the Adult Activity Center. This looks like this next one is no longer relevant. Park staffing configuration if the part-time recreation director is not filled. It looks like that is no longer relevant. And whatever the COLA is for the salary administrative plan employees. Right now, I am looking at a 3%. So how do our FY27 budget as presented stack up against our available funds? So the total FY27 Town of Lunenburg budget as presented this evening is the $53,107,913.87. And our total revenues available for appropriation is less that at the $49,750,699.99. That leaves the current deficit as described this evening at $3,357,213.88. So the total new revenue for FY27 over FY26 is $1,374,263.89. We're going to take $117,858 right off the top of that, and that goes to Monty Tech. That's their increase. This leaves $1,256,405.89. If we are to distribute that proportionally across the same proportion that the Lunenburg Public Schools and the Town of Lunenburg make up across the budget, which is the school represents 53.33% of the budget and the town at 43.91%. That would mean that the school's piece of that, $1.256 million, is $689,059.28. Based on their increase, that deficit would be $2,186,652.72. The town's portion, if distributed along these proportions, would be $567,346.61. And the town's total budget increase, including the fourth shift fire department, is $1,737,907.77. So the deficit for the town would be $1,170,561.16. So what's next? Oh.
So, you have that deficit of 3 million.
Yep.
Okay. If I add on this slide, school budget increased 2.8 million, and then I add the town 1.7, I get you 4.6 million.
You got to add the deficits.
It's the deficits. Yeah, it's the deficits add up. It's the 3.3 on this slide, the $3,357,213.88
Is a deficit.
is the deficit, and
Above-
that's based on, that's the total, based on the total, how much we're short. If I take now new revenue and distribute it proportionally, which is what this slide shows, compared to the budgetary requests of the town and the school's deficit would be the 2.186 million, the town's deficit would be the 1.17 million. If you add those two together, you come up with that same $3.3 million deficit.
Okay, so it's not that the budgeting is increasing by 3.37.
The budget's increasing by a greater number than that.
The budget is increasing by 4.6
That's right.
million.
Right, because you have the benefits of Proposition 2.5, the benefits of new growth. So the overall available, if we can go back, hold on. All right, so on this slide, that total $51,436,771.99. If we subtract from that what that number was last year, that's where we get that total amount of new revenues available for appropriation. So we're already getting more money in because largely the Proposition 2.5, the allowable Prop 2.5 increase. That deficit is what's above and beyond that increase.
The 3.3 is above.
Above and beyond.
So overall, the budget is increasing both sides, 4.6, which is pretty close to overall 10%.
Yeah, so here's the total on this earlier slide. I know it's a lot of information all at once, but on the FY27 expenditure summary, yeah.
And I know you did drop it, but this afternoon I couldn't read everything.
No, there's a lot of information. So the dollar change
It's 4.7.
is 4.7 million. The deficit is the 3.3.
Gotcha.
Okay. And so the difference between those two is that the additional funds available for appropriation. And so that's just kind of illustrative. Let me be clear on that. So is this the amount of money that's being distributed to town and school? I don't think that we're at those points having those conversations right now. If we were to break down the available new revenue on that same proportion, this is how it would break out. It doesn't mean that this is what's going anywhere. It's just if we were going to break out that additional 1.256 million proportionally, this is how it would break out. All right, so what's next? A lot of information tonight. To the public at home, it's probably even more information because you haven't been engaged in the tri-board process since July or August, whenever we started. So, first thing, closeout of FY25 should be happening fairly soon. I hope to have our certified free cash very, very soon. Again, we know it's looking like it's north of 3 million. How much north of that remains to be seen. Once I get that, I'm going to revisit the FY27 capital plan and other planned expenditures, OPEB stabilization, snow and ice, and give Finance Committee and Select Board a presentation on preliminary free cash expenditures. Departmental presentations are going to continue over the series of next weeks. And we are going to continue to revise these budgets over the next weeks and months. These, this is going to definitely be one of those circumstances where if you're picking up the spreadsheet and said, didn't you tell us last week that it was going to be this? Well, yes, but we've done some work here and we've revisited it and we can do whatever it is. Or maybe the union negotiation is further along and we have a more clear picture. So things are going to change. Tri-board will be reconvening, I believe, shortly to discuss next steps. There's a meeting happening tomorrow between the chairs of all the boards and staff to discuss kind of what that might look like. I anticipate that there's going to be a lot of dialogue that happens in the community, but some specific dates. The fourth shift fire presentation is this coming Monday on the 23rd at the is it at the Adult Activity Center or is it at the library? I think it's at the Adult Activity Center. Thank you. Finance Committee public hearing is currently slated for March 19th. We know that we're going to need to take this on the road and answer some questions. So we're going to likely have some forums where people can engage in advance of town meeting. This is not an easy decision for anybody to make. We're asking folks to voluntarily potentially raise their taxes to a certain level. And, they need to engage in that process and ask questions. And we need to hear from them of what they value and what's important to them as well. This isn't any decision that I want to make by myself. This is a community decision for the community. And then annual town meeting, May 2nd, 2026 at 9 a.m. Hopefully, not continuing into Sunday and Monday. But I do anticipate a lot of dialogue. I think that this is always a difficult conversation for any community to have. And I anticipate and expect that there's going to be a lot of questions for us. So that.
Just one note on the 3/19 date, we've talked a little bit about how reasonable that is.
Right, it might
with
be a
the warrant
little-
Closing, and if there's other moneyed articles that we need to hear. We do need to remind folks, if they are putting a moneyed article forward, it needs to come before us.
Yep.
To be properly put onto the warrant.
I know there's at least one committee that's presenting a moneyed article.
Okay. So we'll have to get that into the calendar somewhere too.
Trust Fund Commission.
Oh, yeah, okay. But yeah.
Jen, one thing that you talked about it, and you speak really fast, so it's
I
like
do.
listening to YouTube on 2.0 speed. It's a compliment.
You know what, it's to that, I'm going to make a joke here. When I listen to these meetings at 2.0 speed, because when I do, I listen to them at 2.0, and if it's a select board meeting, except when either myself or the chair speak, because then I'm like, okay, 2.0 with us speaking is way too fast.
What is the PR firm that you said it was in separate? Like, I don't recall.
Oh, okay, so, yeah, we've had that contract for a couple years. John Guilfoyle PR, maybe not a couple years, contract was brought on prior to my time. It's just shy of $10,000 annually. I don't think that it's always been used as effectively as it could have been. It's called John Guilfoyle PR. They do public relations for municipalities across the Commonwealth. The contract covers all crisis communications. If something were to happen, they're here on demand. But in addition to that, it's 3-a-month communications. They did the piece that it actually got picked up by The Wire and got brought nationally. So the piece on Officer McNamara, that was drafted by John Guilfoyle, a PR firm. There's other smaller stories that they write, but they write stories generally just 3 a month. And then if something happens, they're here.
Gotcha. Okay. I just thought, yeah, I mean, so I am quite surprised, like the town's budget's going up by 1.7 million. If I take the fire, DPW, and the assistant town manager, that's 800,000. Then we're left with another 900,000,
Yep.
which
We have some
which is,
retirement, Worcester County, that's 232,000.
is that an assessed value that must be deposited?
Yeah, that's an assessment. We get a bill. And
The OPEB, is that the OPEB thing?
No. OPEB is for retiree health insurance.
Okay.
Worcester County retirement is retirement for employees. It's the pension.
Oh, okay. So that is
That's a bill.
that's a bill.
And it's
And how much-
one sheet of paper with one number on it.
What was the increase?
Yeah. With a little presentation.
Retirement,
with-
Eventually, yeah.
Oh, sounds good.
Because
A lot to it.
there's a lot to it.
All right, Worcester County.
Because really, they're funding their own retirement.
Right, you are self-funding. So it's if I recall correctly, there was a vote taken maybe 2 or 3 years ago for a higher increase so that retirees could have a one-time COLA, which has some of this impact. Bad decision in my assessment, but $238,178 on Worcester County alone.
So that's a 10% increase.
Yeah, 9.95% increase, yep.
So if that's a 10% increase, that's like a $25,000, $30,000 increase.
It's $238,000 increase.
Oh, the 230 is the increase.
Is the
not
increase.
Total, okay,
Yeah, that's the increase.
gotcha.
That's a big line. That's a total, hold on. Yeah. Too far back. Worcester County.
So now we're at 1 million.
So Worcester County, total for FY '27, $2,630,750. Much of this line, actually, so that, at the top of that slide, the intergovernmental, it's all Worcester County except the few $1,000s for MRPC. Yeah, $4,589 of it is MRPC. Everything else in intergovernmental is retirement. And again, that's not town employees only, it's town plus any
Non-teachers.
non-teacher.
School.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go through more of this in detail though, right, when we go through
Yes.
the budgets. So we are at 10:15. I do wanna, I thought that your presentation was great tonight for a preliminary budget. I also thought that the department presentations were really good. I know that, there was some rumblings within the department heads.
I didn't hear any-
New formats and stuff, maybe it was back channel, but they did a great job nonetheless, so.
They didn't rise to my office, so
Okay.
the rumblings.
So I appreciate them putting them in the formats that we asked for, hitting on the highlights of them, in addition to doing it through the tri-board, which I
Yeah.
thought helped this process a lot.
I think so. I think that everybody, department heads, public, boards, committees, and commissions have all benefited from this information sharing.
Okay, so we had old business that's on here just for, if anyone wants to talk about potential Prop 2.5 override, we've kind of hinted at some of it, or tri-board discussion. So if anyone had a,
I had one question. From a couple of weeks ago, there was a discussion about free cash not being reconciled and all that. I guess the question I have is, I know that they said there's audits being done. Audit was done, have an auditing firm come in. Did they miss this, or was it not part of the audit, or was it?
Nope, let me be clear. So we have an annual audit every year. The last audit that we have concluded was FY '24. We have not engaged yet around the FY '25 audit. They won't, I actually anticipate an engagement letter today, I didn't get it, but they won't start the work on it until we close out. This is not something that let me be mindful of how I say this. This should have been started in the summer of 2025 and should have been completed in early fall of 2025. I was not receiving accurate information around the status. This is not something that an auditing firm would find.
Well, I mean, they would find it if it was,
They wouldn't audit us, so this is.
Until it was-
They
but if
wouldn't
it was-
audit us, and so this is a process.
Right.
That every year, the town has to complete by November 30. So if you don't complete that process by November 30, your audit doesn't start.
Right.
You're not because they're auditing the books as they've closed. Our books weren't closed. Our votes at town meeting from May weren't adjusted in the system. Things were not happening.
so the systems are in place though, and the practices are not, or being put in place?
Being put in place.
Okay.
Like, one of those is that, frankly, once we get to the baseline, that I'm going to see sign-offs, or whoever the town managers have sign-offs of the monthly reconciliation between the town accountant and the treasurer collector, so that that's happening that's required to happen every 30 days. If you keep up on that reconciliation, it's a lot easier at the end of the year, because you're not searching. So Karen Brochu has been working on closing out. That's what she's been doing. And so she's remarked that she feels like she's lived a year and a half of a fiscal life of Lunenburg in the past month. And she sees all of what we've done. But frankly, the work that she's doing wasn't all necessary if it had been done as you go along.
Is there a penalty for not closing out your books?
So they can start to hold back your state aid. That doesn't actually start happening until February. That is what I was panicking about, because we were at the warning of we're going to actually start withholding your state aid, and that's when we did successfully receive the extension through the end of February. I don't think we're going to need another extension. But if we didn't, let's say if we didn't close it out, or we're just not able to get it together, there's another community, it's in the news, I can just say it, Hudson. This is the story of Hudson. Hudson has not been able to close out. And they're not getting their revenue stream in. The state has just turned, I think I read in the local newspaper maybe a month or so ago, the state has just, after over a year, turned that flow back on in a little bit. But no, there's serious consequences if you don't close out your books.
And does it affect our grants? Like if we're writing a grant and we're not closed out?
Not in that way, but your grants need to be accurately reported in that as well.
So could,
And they ask for, some grants ask for,
right. So I'm thinking like some of the things that we didn't get is because we weren't.
No, they wouldn't have known that, no.
Okay.
So at this point, thankfully, other than costs associated with cleaning up, and effects on our operation, we haven't had, and by that I mean functionality, we haven't had negative impacts. It certainly has impacted our ability to pick up the FY27 budgeting process and be able to just begin running with it. That's for sure.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you got the extension.
Me too. And I'm glad that, honestly, I gotta say, I don't know that we'd be in this position and that I'd be reporting this if Karen Brochu wasn't willing and able to step back up, because it is only because she knows our chart of accounts and knows our system that she's been able to do this in the speed that she has. If we had stayed with outside consultants doing the work, we definitely would have been receiving extensions, but I don't think it would have been done as quickly.
Well, thank Karen for us.
Yes. Maybe we can bring her in for our
try it all
celebratory.
the time, yeah.
Okay. All right, so we don't have any minutes. I didn't see any minutes, at least. Any committee reports? I know we have loose assignments on those maybe at this point, but if there is anything,
I mean, I don't think we have assignments.
we had assignments, but,
Well, I mean, I from the time that I've been here, we haven't
okay.
had assignments.
Anyone have any committee reports? Any actions and topics for future meetings? All right. Upcoming meetings, we're in the weekly push through FinCom meetings for the next, several weeks. I know some of us won't be able to go to all of them. If you're not, obviously find the 2X feature and listen to everyone speak quickly. Thank you for pushing the materials into the SharePoint so it's easily accessible. Any public comments from the public?
Can I ask, who's going to be in the meeting? Who's presenting next week?
Next week is schools
And IT, right?
and IT, yeah.
Okay.
Schools and IT. Yep.
Again, I'm going to offer to put questions together. The department heads said that it was easy for them to address the questions. So if you want to send it to me, I can get it. Do you know when we're going to get the school presentation?
I'll ask tomorrow morning.
Okay.
I think they're presenting it the day before at the school committee.
I think I read that too.
Is what was said. We were supposed to have them this week, but they did need to get it one more week, so it might be tight.
I mean, it makes it impossible to do a an analysis of what they're presenting and ask questions. But the other thing, I won't be here March 12th.
Okay.
DPW.
I know.
What?
DPW.
One comment I want to say is, I want to thank Anna for putting this together. I think this really puts our department heads at ease when they get questions ahead of time, and they feel much more prepared, and we're able to hear and see the questions that are asked and answered. So Anna, thank you very much. This is very,
Yeah.
very helpful.
If you guys have any, please send it over, and I'll save it on the folder like I did. So I won't necessarily have them printed, but you can take a look at them or just follow or learn.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, and the department heads, while they may be grumbling behind the scenes about my presentation format, I haven't heard any grumblings about
He
the
blames
question.
me.
Oh, good.
For you, Chris.
But they have not grumbled about the questions, to the contrary.
Great.
Okay, again, any public comment from the public? All right, any public comment from the committee? All right, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned at 10:23. Thank you all.